Welcome to the Threshing Floor Podcast, your premier destination for discussion and commentary on the redemption trading card game and its community. Kick back and relax as we catch you up on the latest news, tournament results, and deck building strategies to take your game to the next level. Now, here are your hosts, John Hendricks and Ager the Wise.
Here we are on the other side of Nationals. Yes.
Back, baby.
We are back. Fresh off of Nationals. Well,
Fresh.
is it fresh? Because, like, if we were, like, cut meat from the deli or whatnot, and
We're
we sat
stale
for
off
3
Nationals.
weeks, we're stale off of Nationals, spoiled off of Nationals. We're here after Nationals. How about that?
There we did it.
We are here. We did take an extra week in between episodes, which seems like
two.
I mean, the fact that we didn't get anyone complaining about the extra week means that maybe people didn't notice, or maybe they did and they thought they would throw us a bone and not complain because it was after Nationals. But I didn't want to have to rush home, get right back into getting caught up from work, and then immediately start working on an episode. So we took an extra week to recuperate a little bit.
Yeah, good grief.
But not because we're burned out, just because we wanted to protect against burnout. Okay. But yes, we're back from Nationals. National was a wonderful experience, even with Jay hosting. Which I mean,
no, he did great. He did great.
I had a little reservation about Jay. I've been to some of his tournaments before and completely knocked it out of the park. Him and Ron did a great job.
Grand slam.
People there with the church, the facilities. I know they had a couple of their, I guess, at least their pastor was there, and then they had a couple of like staff members or volunteers from their congregation there. And super nice.
Oh, I got to go to the church on Sunday. They gave us some type of bread.
They gave you free tickets?
Well, they gave us bread. They handed us bread when we walked in. We're like, well, okay, thank you. So I forgot what the name is. It's not banana bread. Who has some other type of bread? But zucchini bread, something like that.
Okay. Well,
yeah, they're really nice.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think I don't know how you would feel if like you're going to a church for the first time. Here's some bread, eat some bread. Like you almost feel guilty because you have to take it because you're rude if you don't. But then if you don't want it and it makes you uncomfortable, you just taking the bread and now you're just uncomfortable with the bread. Like, what do I do with it? I'm not going to eat it, but
my wife said it was good. So I only like normal. I'm very picky, so I don't like all the types of bread, but my wife liked it.
Okay. Well, that's cool. But yeah, the super friendly staff, super great experience overall for Nationals. And then the categories, for the most part, ran pretty smooth. I know that we had a couple of issues with timeouts and things going a little bit longer, extending things. And we started off with a longer lunch period the first day, and we trimmed that back a little bit because of some of those issues. But everything kind of went smooth. I don't remember any real issue, except for maybe me arguing with some judges over some calls, trying to get them to go my way. But hey, I'm sorry if I argued with you. If I pushed back on something, my apologies. I'm sorry, Sean, too. We argued for the entire first round of our team's game. So that's all I'll say. So this was your second Nationals?
Second Nationals, right? Yeah.
You didn't go to any when you were first playing the game, right?
No.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I only played my friends, was just like with no sleeves, just the complete casual redemption back then.
Yeah, okay. RLK to the fullest.
Yeah, dude, I was an RLK.
Your second experience that you have last year and this year.
Yeah.
How was it for you, and what was your overall experience with it?
It was awesome. The church venue was amazing. Getting to see everybody was amazing. Just so cool. Always meeting the elders, having the elders talk with us, share stories, smiling. I don't know if you saw me, but hopefully you saw me smiling, because I felt like I was smiling the whole day out there. But it was just really good to be out there. Hanging with brothers and a few sisters in Christ, and it was just really fun. I got to introduce people to my wife, and also for for me, I got to my wife and I got to do some tourism stuff around Michigan and Indiana on the way back. So it was a lot of fun. It was really cool, and the gameplay experience was fun. Like last year, I was a little disappointed with my performance, and this year I felt like I made some progress. So that was a lot of fun. Just really exciting, really fun. A lot of strategery and all that type of stuff. Strategery.
And who would have figured that you and Tim would find a way to pair up and play teams?
Dude, that
something
was
that you had played teams once before, and you said that it was like a yuck experience.
Yeah, honestly,
just awful.
Honestly, I think there's problems with the format, but like at the same time, like it turned out better than I expected.
Yeah.
In fact, Tim had asked me if I was gonna play teams like 3 months ago or 4 months ago, and I was like, I mean, I'm not planning to, but if you want to play, I'll play with you because I want to play with somebody that like I know that they respect the game and they have some like strategic input and like I can bounce ideas off of. I just don't want like, I don't like not to be rude, but if you're like not someone you're not a student of the game and you just say you want to play teams with me, I'll be like, I'm probably just gonna play sealed, but I know Tim like works on the game.
So you're saying there's people out there that are not worthy.
Like I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying, like.
I get what you're saying.
I'm obsessive about things. I want somebody obsessive about the game with me, so I can bounce ideas off and actually talk about things with like if somebody's just gonna like. I'd rather just play sealed at that point if we're not gonna like get invested into it. So we didn't invest in teams until like the night before. I was like, so you're gonna play sealed? He's like, actually, let's do teams. So we're like, those few days before we started cooking up some stuff. But it was really fun.
Well, I might have had a shot to at least place if you guys had played sealed. But I think it was cool getting to see you guys ended up meeting in the final of Type 1. So, hey, spoiler alert, if you don't know the results for Nationals, Jake here came in second. Tim finished first. They met in the finals. But then seeing you guys after having that really competitive game with everything on the line, obviously, you guys both handled it with grace and being competitive, but also being gracious to each other and remaining friends afterwards, enough to then play teams. Now, I guess we should check and see, are you still friends after playing teams? Because teams is a format that can rip friendships apart, possibly.
I do think I let Tim down a little bit in teams. I wasn't playing great that day either, but I think that as far as I'm concerned, I love Tim still, and he hasn't blocked me on Discord yet, so there's that.
I guess that's a good sign. I do also think it's really cool, and you'll hear me kind of talk about this a little bit in the mailbag, because breaking down the fourth wall, it's a tradition here at the podcast. We got to do it at least once an episode. The first thing that we recorded last night, so and I guess nights don't really matter to you, but we recorded the first segment was the community mailbag. It's an extended one, so we had a lot of questions, and we just branched off and had a lot of conversation. And part of that is going to include things that we might repeat here. So you might feel like you're going back in time, hearing the same thing at the end of the episode that you heard at the beginning. But I think it's amazing for the product of the podcast here that you were able to do so well. You made Top Cut and you made it all the way to the final game. And I think having you on the podcast, I feel like there was some people that obviously respected, the way that you built decks and things, and you were doing really well through the tournament season. But I think having the feather in your cap that you made Top Cut, you advanced to the final, and you came up just short. I mean, if you had top decked a Wall of Protection at some point in the first turn or two, then I think you probably win that game based on everything else that was there. But I think that's going to give so much credence to our credibility to our ability to talk strategy and things on the podcast, which is something that when I brought you on, that was as co-host, I mentioned that was something that I wanted to do, is start to branch into that stuff, not necessarily make it all about that, but I wanted that to be a strong element of the podcast, because when we first started out the podcast, I wanted to cast a wide net so that I talked about a bunch of not random, but just a wide array of topics. And then I had a bunch of guests that were, well-versed in certain areas. And we talked about, collections, play group building, what we wanted to see in new starter decks before we even knew there were starter decks coming.
Yeah.
We had Jaden on talk about Type 2. We had Josh Kinnett talk about Booster. Just all these different things, and I wanted everyone to be able to get something from that. But I think the game has done such a good job of taking the card pool and, just making the card values so good that the average deck now is really good. There is no free wins.
No.
Because as long as someone is able to play cards straight up and not do a ton of misplays, the cards themselves, I mean, you don't get a free buy on someone just, oh, well, they don't have a good deck anymore.
Yeah. No,
it's like, man, had he played this differently, I probably would have lost that game, even when you win against someone that's a less experienced player. So there's nothing to take for granted on winning anymore. But as now all the decks have gotten pretty good, now people are starting to crave more of how can I take that next step or get above
an edge.
This middle ground that is now really compacted with all the players being there or higher. How do you get into that higher step up? And if we're going to talk about stuff like that, I think you having done well at Nationals is going to give us good credibility for that. I feel like I did okay at Nationals. I went 5-2, but one of those was a timeout win, and that dropped me down to 14 points. The last couple of people to get into Top Cut had 15 points. So had I gotten that full win, who knows? I might have been there at the edge, but I don't ever claim to be a really good player. I'm a recovering blue player. So I got that limitation going, but
you showed the power of nativity there too. That was awesome. We got 3 decks in there, 3 from our brand of nativity. I do consider Newspaper and Harrods still close on our family tree in terms of, because I had a Harrods build too before. I'm using Baboonies, but I don't think they're that dissimilar. So I like the fact that we got all 3 of them to do really well. Really good.
I think that the unfortunate thing for me was I did get to play 2 top level players in Jeremy and Justin. Those were my 2 losses. Justin just wiped the floor with me because of an opening play where I had 3 heroes banded in, and he got rid of them all with outsiders. And I thought about it, but I didn't use second coming to go to woes to then negate. And I should have done that. Yeah. And I think that I make it a competitive game, but whatever. And then I played Jeremy, and Jeremy told me after the game that he thought that I had the win, and he was just able to slightly pull it out 5-4. Oof. It was a really good game. But I did enjoy my experience there, but between the 2 of us, I feel like at least maybe we have created enough of a wealth of knowledge between us. That now we can share some strategy things on the podcast. People just won't be like, they don't know what they're talking about.
We may not be Jaden, we may not be Josh, but we got something going on here.
Yeah, we can cook. Let them cook.
Let me cook. I mean, it may not taste as good as his stuff, but it's edible, and it won't kill you.
Hey, the first step to any good food is it's got to be edible. So we've already tackled step 1.
Yeah.
But before we move into talking about the actual specifics, because I do want to ask you a couple of questions about some plays and things in Nationals, give you a chance to talk about some of your favorite in-game moments at Nationals, because I think some of that is kind of important as a player, because those are the picking out a line of play and playing it, or missing a line of play even. Seeing something cool happen at Nationals. Those are the kind of things that stick with you. And then when you start to build decks for the next season, you're aware of things that happened at Nationals on the big stage, so to speak. And I feel like it really helps you kind of refine how you build decks and things like that. So I do want to get into that. But before we do that, I do want to go over the full results for Nationals, at least the placings, so that we can, I guess, give shout outs for the people that did well enough to place at Nationals. So I know the biggest category is Type 1, and that's how it's listed here on the National Tournament results page on Covenant Games. So if you go to Covenant Games, click on History, you can then search and locate all of these results. So if you want to go and see who you played in the 3rd round, what was the score because you forgot, you can literally see your name and do all of that. But being that this was a Top Cut event, I do want to give the top 8, and then obviously you'll be able to find who won at the top of that. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You won't be able to tell who won because the results, I guess, do not have Top Cut tied to them. So we'll just have to tell you who the top 3 was. I thought, okay.
It might go into the last round.
Scratch all that. So the top 8 that made it into Top Cut, you have Luke Marshall ended up being the 1 seed. He had 18.5 points and 14 soul differential. He was cooking all day.
That's
he
insane.
was doing really well. Jaden had 18 total points and 11 soul differential and got the 2nd seed. 3rd seed was Josh Potratz, 16.5 points with 14 soul differential. Jeremy Chambers, 16.5 points with 11 soul differential. Joe Andrighetti, 16.5 points with 6 soul differential. So he played a lot more close games. Only had +6 here. Tim made it with 15 points and +11 on the soul differential. And Emmanuel Echevarria, E-Man, 15 points with a 5 soul differential, mirroring our boy Jake with 15 points and 5 soul differential. And those were the 8 seeds that made it into Top Cut. And then Top Cut ended up with Jaden in 3rd. He beat Jeremy Chambers in the 3rd place game while you guys were playing the 1st and 2nd game, to which obviously we've already said the result there that Tim pulled that one out.
Let's go, Tim.
So Tim and then Jake and Jaden was the top 3. The next category listed here is Type 2 2-player, and that was Jaden Alstead coming in first with 13 total points and 21 soul differential. And then Tyler Stevens had 13 points, 21 soul differential, but it's not a tie because Jaden beat Tyler in a head-to-head matchup. So head-to-head separated.
And in a grudge match too, right?
Yep. And then Jeremy Chambers came in 3rd with 8 points and 0 soul differential. So the only 2 players with positive soul differential in the field was Jaden and Tyler. And they matched. And then 13 victory points for 8 in 3rd place. So
if Nationals is 5 days long, I'd play all the categories. I kind of want to play Type 2 now.
Well, good luck with that. I don't think my wife will let me stay and spend money across 5 days. And then we've got Sealed here. Sealed, 1st place was Mr. Jaden Alstead.
Let's go.
Seems to be a pattern here.
Is he a new player? Is he coming?
I think he's been around for a little while.
Okay. I'll look him up.
He had 20 points and 18 soul differential. In 2nd place was Sean Murphy, 16 points and 6 soul differential. And Zach Gilball came in 3rd with 16 points and +2 soul differential.
Go Zach, man.
You have 6 soul differential, 2 soul differential, and then Jaden is right there at 18. So just to tell you how his games went in comparison. And that brings us to Booster Draft. So Booster Draft at Nationals, we have a tie for 1st place.
Mm-hmm.
So Jacob Arrowwood, Red Wing on Discord. Congratulations to him for, well, do you say he dethroned Booster Jones if he tied him?
He joined him on the throne and I don't know, that sounds good enough to me. I call it a dethrone.
Okay. Well, he didn't let Brian get it clean.
Exactly.
So Jacob did really well.
He ended the streak.
Had 18 points, 13 soul differential, which is the exact same thing that Brian had, 18 and 13. And so they tied for 1st. And then in 3rd was Kai Murphy. And he had 18 points with +7 soul differential. That leaves us with one other category before we get to that dreaded teams category. And that is Type A, where we had, I believe it was 8 participants this year. Or no, it was 7 participants, which is still a healthy number compared to years past. Be nice to see that jump up to over 10, so maybe we'll continue some healthy growth that way. But in 1st place was Elijah Andrighetti, and he had 10 points with only +1 soul differential, so he was playing it rather close.
Yeah.
But I'm not even sure how you do that.
Like you can have a bunch of wins of just one, and then you can have one loss where you just got like trounced, and that can really like take you down. Like, say, how many points do you have? Say
He had 10.
10
And
points. So
they only
that's-
played four rounds.
Yeah.
So he couldn't have taken a loss to get, or I mean, I guess he would have taken a what is that, a timeout loss?
Yeah. Oh no, let's see. I think he went 2 full wins, and 2 partial wins. Okay, so he didn't get any losses, right? Yes, that makes sense. Or he could have had a full 3 full wins and a partial loss. And that
I think we have discovered that there's some calculation issues here. We'll blame
no,
John.
it could actually be fine. It could be fun. So three full wins plus 1, and then a partial loss where he lost 4-0, and that's even better. That's even worse soul differerential. So
Okay,
like you can do
all
it.
right, I'll take your word for it. In second place was Keegan Hendricks, my son.
Let's go.
And he had 8.5 points and plus 3 soul differential. Titus
Nice.
Brooks, one of the Brooks kids, came in third with 7 and 2 soul differential. Tied with Annalise Murphy, 7 and 2 as well. So you had Elijah came in first, Keegan second, and Titus and Annalise tied for third. And then that's going to bring us to the teams category. And the teams category was won by none other than Sean and Brandon.
Let's go, Sean and Brandon.
Complete unknowns on the, I guess, the national scale, but they roughed us up a few times over the season, me and Jeremy. So it didn't come out of the blue for us, but they won with 12.5 points and 11 soul differential. Then you and Tim came in second here.
We came in
according
third
to this.
Yeah, I think it's just because it didn't count the tiebreaker for because we lost to Chad.
Yeah. So Chad and Aaron, Chad France, and I don't want to misquote the last name. I think I know what it is, but we'll just leave it at Aaron so I don't misquote it. Chad and Aaron, they had 12 and -2, but you're saying they had the head-to-head win, so they jumped you and Tim, and you guys got third. We ended up having, 13 teams? Is that right? That sounds right. 13 teams, so 26 players. For Type A, we had 7, like we mentioned. For Booster Draft, there was 57 participants. For Sealed Deck, which Sealed Deck was paired with teams. So on that day, day 3, we ended up having 58 for Sealed, and then the 26 for teams, which is 84, I believe, if my math is correct, which is more than we had playing on any other day combined, because Booster Draft was 57, and then it was paired with Type 2 2-player, which there was 8 players. Type 1 had 60 participants, and that was the only category paired with Type A, so 67 there. But to have 84 on day 3,
that's awesome.
That is really good, because a lot of times people are trying to get out of there quickly and to be able to stick around and play. But I feel like we had healthy attendance, and I know that I mentioned on Discord that Nationals not having free lodging and requiring people to find lodging on their own, whether they stayed in a hotel, paired up, and got an Airbnb like we did, just things like that. Having to spend some kind of money, resources, generally, obviously there might be some people that were able to make plans where they didn't have to spend money, but for the most part, I thought that was going to be a big hindrance on the attendance at Nationals, and I do think it affected it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we could have potentially pushed towards triple digits.
Yeah, if we develop teleportation, I think there'd be a lot more people at Nationals. It's just really hard to get across the country. Yeah.
Beat me up, Scotty. I got to go to Nationals.
Exactly. That's the only thing we want to use it for. We wouldn't use it to better society or anything else. It's just for Nationals.
Well, I mean, if Nationals has that many people, that's going to make society better. More people playing Redemption would improve society. We would stop world wars. Hey, stop.
Exactly.
Before you fight each other, fight it out on the battlefield.
Exactly. Let's get Reth over here.
But yeah, I think that the attendance was pretty strong considering the travel to it for some people. I mean, Texas to Michigan is you can speak to that.
Hours. Yeah.
It's a big jump. People coming from Oregon. We had Tim come from California.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of big travel. It was when I went over to Eastern Kentucky, picked up Brian, stayed the night there and went. And it was basically 8 hours to Brian and then 8 hours to the Airbnb. So that's 16 hours total there. I was able to offload Brian, have him ride with someone else to save me some time on the way back. And it ended up being, I think, just under 12 hours. Either way, there was a good bit of travel to get there. But I think we had pretty strong attendance otherwise. But anyway, to shift gears a little bit, I know that with us talking about the results here, there's a lot of people curious about nationals and the impact that it might have on a certain set of power rankings.
Let's go.
I don't know why I thought I was going to get away without doing them, but I had a couple of people reach out and ask about them. And I feel like I am obligated now to give power rankings with the results of nationals. So I guess we'll just jump right into that and see where you guys think that I'm wrong at. And Jake's wrong because Jake signed off on it.
I signed off on it.
You did sign off. We didn't get anyone else to sign off on it,
Hey,
so we
we
can't
put
blame.
it through our computer that is infallible. So
Infallible. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's messed up, Jaden didn't contribute to it this week, so we'll blame him.
And now, it's time to find out where the hottest players in the game stack up in this week's Power Rankings. This is the top 10 Redemption players right now, according to us.
According to us. That's
According
right.
to
We're going
us.
to hit the top 10
Top 10.
post-nationals, including wrapping up where we were at the end of the season leading into nationals and then the results of nationals. So this isn't like the top players right now overall. It is still a power ranking. So just if players were hot at nationals, they're going to be reflected here. And it also takes into account where we saw them in the tournament season. They're leading up to nationals. So we'll go ahead and kick it off, and I'll let you take the first one here, Mr. Jake.
Okay. We're starting with number 1.
Wait, hold on. What are you doing?
Oh, we're going to number 10. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Plus, I was about to play the clip.
The clip. Okay. Cut that out. No one needs to hear this. No one needs to hear this.
We took
No
too
one
long before recording
It's
after
been
nationals.
so long. I've lost everything. My brain's been fried. Okay.
10.
At number 10, we have Mr. Red Wing, Jacob Arrowwood himself, taking the final slot.
For dethroning, or maybe he's just sitting on Brian's lap on the throne with him. I don't know.
What? Oh, my goodness.
9.
At number 9, we have Josh Potratz. Mr. Kevin the Dude himself came in 4th and sealed, and he made top cut. That's a pretty strong showing for him. He didn't play on the day of Booster and Type 2, so he doesn't have any results for those categories, but I think he reaffirmed what everyone thinks, and that is that he is one of the top players in the game.
Amen.
8.
At number 8, we have Mr. Luke Marshall. This guy is amazing. His record in the Swiss on Type 1 was amazing. And he was just awesome to hang out with.
Yeah. I think on that day for Type 1, if we didn't have top cut, I think the day that he had was one of those that we would have probably felt like we got the strongest player in first place there, just because of how well he played through the Swiss rounds.
7.
At number 7, we've got the Guardian of the Fortress, the man himself, Justin Alstead, whose best win at Nationals was when he beat me. No, I'm just kidding. But we've got Justin here. He had a great tournament season, and then he did pretty well at Nationals. Didn't make top cut, but he was kind of, one of those first few out, and then he did pretty well in sealed, and Booster was just kind of a mixed bag. So I think he did pretty well and deserves to be on the list here for what he's done throughout the tournament season.
6.
At number 6, can you hear the lions roaring? Can you see those 3 in the fiery furnace? We got
Daniel is metal
here. Daniel's metal. E-Man here taking down 6. He had a great tournament, and he did really well in Type 1. It was a great was fun to play with him. I didn't get to play him, but play around him.
I want you to know that he came up to me after every positive result he had at National. He's like, so am I doing good enough to be in at least the top 25? Have I moved to 22?
Dude.
Come on, tell me I'm at least 18th.
He's so awesome.
I love and here guy. He is. He's moved all the way up to number 6. So congratulations, Emmanuel.
5.
At number 5, we've got your very own co-host of the Threshing Floor. We've got we've got Jake. Sorry, Brad. I couldn't pass up the chance to. We've got Jake here. We brought him on with the hopes that he could pull us into one of the top spots at Nationals. And look, he did it. So
that's
there
awesome.
you go.
I'm excited.
And you didn't want yourself to be on the list after you lost to Jeremy. And then you took like the last 2 months of the season off, but then went right back into like grind mode to get ready for Nationals.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
It's nice to see that it paid off here, and congratulations, co-host.
Thank you.
4.
At number 4 is Jeremy, Mr. I Am Bread. This guy is always good, always a threat, always dangerous. It was fun to play against for sure.
Unless you lost to him.
Yeah.
3.
At number 3, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, the guy that gets mail with this name now, if you saw that in Discord, Mr. Booster Jones from Kentucky. So this is Brian Jones, Jonesy on the Discord. Fun hanging out with him at Nationals. Very competitive player, did well all season. I mean, not just with his play group, but also when he did the tournaments in Tennessee that Chris hosted, which I believe he won both his sealed and his regional, or not sealed, both his state and his regional tournament for Type 1, which is the big category. So did really well there, and then followed it up with back-to-back wins in Booster, the category he's known for at Nationals, although he had to share the title with Red Wing. But hey, you can only win who's across from you, so he did enough of that to get first place.
2.
At number 2, we have my friend and the only one without a J name in the top 5. Well, let's call him Baboony Jimothy. Tim, Baboony Tim, taking number 2, crushing Type 1, crushing me in the finals. This guy did awesome. I was happy to see him win.
Yep. And I know some people will probably say that because he won first place in the main category that everyone strives to do well in, maybe he should have been at the top of the rankings. And I won't argue that too much, but you did concede to the rankings that I listed out at first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think it easily could have been him in the first place spot here.
Yeah.
It was really tight, but we decided to do it this way.
1.
And in the first spot, we've got Mr. Jaden Alstead, who it seemed like throughout the tournament season, he was not doing as hot as he's done in years past, at least the most recent years. But, I mean, when it comes time to flip that switch, he's an Alstead and he can do it. And he did that. He ends up winning sealed category, which is something that he had not previously done. He won Type 2, and he came in third in Type 1. So a great spread of results for him.
I don't know if you've ever seen that there's an anime called Naruto, and there's this guy called...
I know what it is, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. There's this guy called Gaara, or I think it's Gaara. Or, no, maybe. I don't know. No, Lee. Lee. His name is Lee. People are going to be mad at me for that. But he goes
somebody
into this
out there is going to be very angry at you.
He goes into this tournament and he's like, the guy's good opponent's there's no way this guy matches this guy, and then he drops the weights like he's wearing weighted clothing, and they like slam on the ground, and then he starts going crazy. Like that's what Jaden's doing the whole season long. He's using like, I don't want to be like rude, but sometimes they're derpy decks, and like, oh, let's try to build a Deacons offense. Let's try to build blah, blah, blah. Like he's using random decks throughout the season. And then when he finally comes to Nationals, he drops all the weights. He goes Super Saiyan, whatever. Like he goes.
Wow. You're mixing shows now.
I know.
Now you've really got people mad at you.
Then he turns into a Titan. So like, really, that's all.
I don't know.
Now it's time to duel.
timed. We already did that. You haven't heard it yet, guys, but we did that in the mailbag.
I'm gonna get so much hate mail.
Recording the dude. Maybe we should start like a PO box in your area so people can actually send physical hate mail to you. It's always more serious when it's physical mail.
It's always worse. Good grief.
But anyway, those are the power rankings post nationals. Now, I do think that we're going to take a while, or take a break from doing the power rankings, at least for the next couple of months, because the only real tournaments that we're going to have right now are the online tournaments, and we do like using those results to build a power ranking. And we'll pick that back up. But I think just right now, it feels like it'll be nice to just give a couple of months off, so that when we do break out the power rankings again, there's no lingering like last season. This is where players stacked up. It's
fresh start, restart.
Here we go. It's a fresh restart. Power rankings based on what results we have for whatever is going on at the time. If we see some local district tournaments that we want to use results for, the online tournaments, both the Grand Prix and the Zoom Discord, and then maybe the online official tournaments as well, because I think those are supposed to be picking back up at the end of August or beginning of September. That I believe Jay's going to continue hosting those. So we'll have some results we can use, but I don't think there'll be enough movement to justify right now in the next couple of months.
Let's follow for a little bit so we can get some new seeds going. It'd be good.
Yeah. So that is your power rankings, and you can enjoy them, you can dislike them, whatever, but that's where we stand here post nationals.
This episode of the Threshing Floor Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Your Turn Games. If you are in the market for singles or sealed product, you won't find a better selection anywhere else. They also feature some of the best custom products the game has to offer, with their selection of pre-built Challenger and Contender decks, along with their rotation grab bags. Visit yourturngames.biz for all your redemption gaming needs. Now, back to the episode.
After we've gotten that out of the way and talked about kind of an overview of nationals, I do want to, give you a chance to talk about some of the specifics of nationals, because I know that you put a lot of work in on your nativity build, and I know that Tim did a lot of work, but there was probably more activity in the nativity Discord with like 5 of us talking about that deck at times than there was on the main Discord, because of just ideas sharing and things that you guys were discovering, and it led to some unique plays, like the Hezron play. Like, where the heck did that come from? Dude. I believe that was one of the, somebody sent it to you, I believe. Or
No.
You sent it.
I picked it out. Yeah, I'm the one that re-originated this year. Jaden did a video about it last year, I believe, before Nationals last year, and I think the title of his video is like "Winning Battles with Star Bethlehem" or something like that. And
it was a derpy deck, wasn't it?
Honestly, like I don't think it was a good deck. But he had that combo in there, and honestly, like that really didn't stand out to me that much. But I guess it stood in the back of my subconscious for a while, and then I was like, wait, there was a card that could win battles with this, and balancing a Meek Hero is just really good against clay decks. And one thing that's important to note, this card does not solve your problems on its own. Like, when they know you, like, first off, it's mostly telegraphed. You can get it out of your reserve with Herod Archelaus. But even then, like they can 3 woes that and put it back. They can 3 woes it and put it back. I need to stress this enough. This card doesn't just solve everything, but it creates problems for the clay deck, because now they have to say, okay, do I have to band now? Because if I attack with a single Meek clay character, they can just bounce me before the battle even starts, right? They can't even before you even block, so they couldn't use a good seed effect. They couldn't use something to add another character to battle. You can just end the battle right there. So it changes how they play, and you can't really protect against it, because you would need protection from opponents. Protection from harm won't help, because this is a good effect. It's basically uncounterable in the sense of like it's a star ability in your discard pile or hand, and that's almost uncounterable in Redemption. In your hand, there's only one soul that does it, and no one's playing it. And in discard, it's literally uncountable. So there's that. So the strategy isn't like a brick wall, but it's an extra mine in the way of the clay player that forces them to have to think about things differently. And if they ever Angel the Lord, your defending character, and you get to bounce their hero back, like you've kind of just set them back on one of their free rescues. And that's what's huge against clay, is stopping their free rescues, because the deck is just trying to kill you, like is trying to win on turn 3 every time. Like they don't want to go into deeper turns. And I think that's one of the things different about Nativity. Nativity is fast enough to win on turn 3, but it's meant to actually keep on attacking even if they stopped you once or twice. I think clay runs out of gas if you actually stop a few of their dominant attacks. Like if they drop a ride on into Authority of Christ and you get to bounce their character back, like that can really change the flow of the game. So I just really love the tech. Was really fun, and obviously it didn't solve everything, but it put an extra wrench that they had to deal with and kind of messed up their gameplay a little bit.
I think that was a really out of left field type of play, to where there was probably some players that you played that against that hadn't even thought about that was the first time they were seeing it. So you might have done them a little bit dirty on that, but it's a really, really strong strategic point, and it really lets you. The cool thing about it is, in a game, like you're talking about a game to where you might not have had the best start or whatever, you might be struggling to get through your deck. You might be, because you haven't, at the time that you're going to deploy this, more than likely you probably haven't played your star yet.
Or it's your second star off-coming Prince, but yeah, usually it's often on your first star.
Yeah. And it doesn't require you to have an evil character, which is one of the cool things about it. It's like, okay, they push. I don't have to, it's not like Grapes of Wrath to where I have to have an evil character to sacrifice. It's kind of like Christian Martyr. It's like a boom. Okay, what else you got, homie? Which is kind of cool to be able to fit that in. And it's just easy to pull off with a card that's already in your deck. I mean, because I played Nativity as well at Nationals, and when you play star and you can do up to, if you max that thing out, you can do up to 6 star abilities. There's not really 6 star abilities you always want to do. There's usually like 3 or 4. And then you're just like doing something just for value on the back end of that to get the other ones, and having the ability to do this. And even in a pinch, if you needed to, maybe they found a way to convert your Mary Band to her and convert her. You could potentially bounce her so that you could reset her. You know, assuming that maybe you've already used your Lost Child Found and things like that.
100%.
You ended up switching from the black-gray defense, which I ended up sticking with. I played 100%. I said it a bunch of times last season that I didn't have a lot of time to build unique decks. So I was net decking like a fool. Like I was grabbing a deck from this person, that person. I was trying a bunch of things out. Like I remember I tried out the new version of Soul Surfer. I tried out the Dependable Daniel deck list that Gabe had shared. There was one other deck I tried before I ended up trying Nativity. And when I played Nativity, it was just like, this deck has an answer for everything. So
it feels like it does.
I'm just going to play this one.
It just feels well-rounded, really, to me. And that's really what it comes down to. Like it's not faster than Clay, but it's fast. And it's not like, it's not as hard to block as Daniel can be at time when it gets its full setup, but it's hard to block. And like, I think it scores B+ on most everything, or A- on, like, it's not like a master of any specific trade, but it's a really good, it's a jack of all trades, and it's good at all of them. So
it has a high floor in all metrics, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not the highest ceiling, but it's got a pretty high floor in all of them. But anyway, I ended up playing literally the exact list that was your last list that you did, that you lost to Jeremy in Top Cut, the one that was shared there. I had all these changes that I wanted to try. Like we talked about putting Great White Throne in there because I was worried about the placed orange stuff. And I just didn't make any change. I didn't have time. And then I was going to do it like when we got to the Airbnb, and I found time doing other things. And I was just like, all right, fine, I'm going to play this. You had switched to the Herod's defense. So I do want to, obviously it was a mirror match of Nativity and Herod's for you and Tim both in the final. But do you think that your results would, how different are your results, do you think, if you don't make that switch on defense? if you stick with the black gray on defense.
Oh yeah, I probably think that black gray probably does. I think it might do better. The thing is, Herodias is so amazing, so it's hard to know. Like, besides Herodias, I think black gray is it's got some of the better like blocks in that, but it's really close. Honestly, like people think that we got a lot of mirror match games in. We did not get a lot of mirror match games in because as we were finalizing the deck, I was kind of like out of the game for a long time. So we didn't get a ton of mirror match testing in, honestly. And I think Black Gray has definitely a little bit more card draw on it. And Priest of Zeus is amazing. Like, that's definitely something you really want to have. But Herodias is also really brutal too. So it's hard to know for sure. One thing that we did, both decks could run Outsiders, and we cut it because we're expecting to be on board advantage most of the game. That's one thing. That's one of Nativity's weaknesses. It vomits out cards like onto the board very fast. It's not uncommon to have like 10, 15 cards and play on turn one at the end of turn one with Nativity. So it's really hard to like.
That's fair, but Outsiders could also. Even if you're planning on doing that when you go second, if you can get two Outsiders, knowing that there's the potential for a deck to do the same to you, drop a bunch of cards turn one, you can really impact the game. That's how Justin beat me, having Outsiders on that first block, and I didn't have a bunch of cards in 100%. My territory. I had a couple. I think I ended up with like a Fortress, and maybe I had a face down artifact. I don't know. But I know I had 3 heroes in battle, and he was able to target all 3 heroes with Outsiders, which, I mean, it really set me back. But I honestly don't. That's the thing. And that's one of the things about Nationals is you learn and you develop things from Nationals because Nationals leaves lasting impact with you. Life is not infinite. Like, obviously, players come and go in this game, and then we're getting older every day. Nationals is like one of those things. Yeah, world breaking news here. No. But like Nationals is one of those things to where like you aim to do so well, and you build it up in your mind so much that when you go and something cost you that you did, it lingers with you and it sticks with you. Like, I don't know how that game would have gone against Justin had I. Gone second coming to 3 woes to get rid of or negate his Outsiders, bring my heroes back. I don't know how that impacts the game moving forward, but I know that happening now sticks with me to where like I'm going to be more willing to use second coming in that spot in the future if that happens. And, maybe a little bit. The thing is on turn one, you want to weigh, like, you don't know how the game is going to go yet. It's hard you got to make a judgment call. So maybe having a little bit more of an aggressive edge there. But I think Outsiders is one of those things to where a lot of people cut it for the same reason that you mentioned. Oh, well, I'm planning on having board advantage. But when it comes down on that first block of the game and can be so impactful like it was in mine and Justin's game, that's a really strong play. But some of those cards that we were talking about that, people hadn't seen much throughout the tournament season, or they had just started getting a little bit more, popular going into Nationals, and you would see it a lot more at Nationals. We talked about Confusion of Mind, which was all over the place. It always is at Nationals. Wall of Protection for you guys in the mirror match. That was awesome. Worried about the mirror match. That's a very strong card to try to help, keep your opponent from catching back up by using your resources that are on the board.
It's good against every gospel. It's good against every New Testament offense because everybody's playing Resurrection. Everybody's playing like, what's it called? The Ascension, like a style effects. Like Nativity has the Child is Born. There's the Ascension. There's Angels have their own. Child is Born. They also have another banding. Like, there's so many cards.
There's just Resurrection too.
Yeah, exactly.
And when they play the Resurrection and they don't have 3 heroes, they're going to reach across the board and try to grab yours.
Exactly. And ours don't convert to meek, so they just get to take all of our value. Like sometimes when you ban to theirs, it's just a meek Matthew. It's just a meek Peter. You're like, okay, whatever. They get to ban to our full chain, and they get to start chaining into our other characters. They ban to our Mary and convert her for no reason. Exactly.
Just because they want to be
just to
buttholes.
Exactly. And like Tim brought up wall protection to me, and I had tried it last year before Nationals in my gold Crimson deck, my gold Thieves deck, and it just was too slow because my deck was too slow, and I couldn't have a random fort just slowing me down at the beginning of the game. But I was like, Tim, we got to cut this. And he's like, but it's been really good in testing. I'm like, really? Okay, let's try it out. And it turns out nativity is fast enough that he can actually have a few extra fortresses in there because you're drawing enough cards. You're going through your deck fast enough that you can afford to. Now there is the possibility of clunking out. I actually had this happen to me against my feature match against Josh Potratz in the Swiss. Like I drew 3 fortresses in my opening hand, and I had some card draw off my souls. I was like, I can make this work if I draw something right. I didn't draw anything. I drew Prosperity, I drew the Cycling Soul, and nothing came up. So I just dropped 3 forts and passed the turn. That was horrible. So like it can go bad for sure. But I think the deck is fast enough that it can actually play some more utility cards, and those utility cards really matter. Like wall protection is so huge against choose a blocker. It's so huge against them banding to you. Like it is really valuable in this format. Like one of the things we played against was Nicanor, and they're like, man, if we had wall protection against you, like you couldn't band to our Nicanor and then start drawing, because that's what I did. I banded to Nicanor, then I played Star of Bethlehem to draw a ton of cards. Like that changes the match right there that I can actually draw. So just so interesting to all the complicated play lines that come off of changing 1 or 2 cards in your list.
Kind of the scenario where you mentioned banding to the Nicanor or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was something that I didn't think about in the moment, but I thought about it afterwards because he has the control for the instead or whatever. Yeah. And then I remember, I don't know if it was you mentioning it or me hearing someone else talk about the fact that you had done that or someone had done that. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, why didn't I think of that in the moment? But I wasn't going to give I think the game between me and Jeremy was such a good game that I don't want to look at that as like a negative, like I misplayed that. But it's just like one of those things like, oh, well, here's something I could have done. It's not like the Justin game to where like I feel like I did cost myself the chance to be competitive in that game. I think against Jeremy, it was just like one of those things. Had I thought about that, maybe that swings something, maybe not. But sometimes I don't want to get in my own head on something like that. But I did hear about it afterwards, and it something that simple. And then them seeing you play Wall of Protection and knowing that it could have helped them in that situation. And maybe Jay makes top cut. I'm guessing you played Jay to do that.
Yeah, we played Jay.
So
I played Jay.
If Jay had Wall of Protection, maybe he makes top cut. And that's 1 card in a 50 card deck that can, or well, in a 10 card reserve that can be so impactful. Were there any other cards that I know we had talked about some of those building up to nationals that might impact games in a, not kind of an outside way, but like just you didn't expect to see this card in this scenario? Did you see any of those across your games besides like obviously the uptick in confusion of mind and things like that are kind of national staples?
Nicanor was a really good tech piece there. And they're playing Nicanor plus Widow's Table just to turn him on. But like, because Deacons are so bad, they're like, I don't play any other Deacons. We'll just do Widow's Table and Nicanor. And that's a really hard lock because he's CBI. So that means you cannot just woes him. You cannot just like deal with him naturally. You have to either have your distress down before he gets down to prevent him and not let him out, and they hope that they do not find a Senegal for your distress or woes for your distress, or you have to band to it. Yeah. So yeah, like it's just, that was really cool tech. Like I still like hate that he comes with a dead card in Widow's Table for you. But at the same time, that you still can't deny the power of that lock. Another thing that Baboni Tim came up with is like, why don't we just run Storehouse? And like we're like, we already have Stables. It's Storehouse, but better. And it is better in Storehouse for the deck. But if we have 2 of them, they can't just woes us out of our hand protection, right? Like a lot of decks can't handle 2 different sources of hand protection at the same time, plus Crowd's Soul. Like that's 3 different sources of hand protection that some decks have to get through. And they're like, I can't negate all of them. Well, okay, I'm just going to leave your hand protected. And obviously hand protection has the downside, but people weren't playing. I didn't run into a lot of people playing the cards that would punish you for having hand protection. So
which was a little bit strange, right? Like you expected, I expected to see a little bit of that, like a little bit more than I did. Like obviously the black gray defense, you're trying to punish them because I had with that deck, you built it, I ran it, but it was Goliath, and then it was Entrapping Pharisees, and I want to be able to, manipulate them, especially if they get the like. Nothing is more fun than when they get their first turn and they accelerate through it, and then right before they pass turn, off of the Matthew draw, they got the other piece to put down Herod's Temple and Bethlehem Stable, or whatever their hand protection is, so their hand's protected and their territory. Then I'm just Goliathing, baby.
Goliathing of the whole game, yeah.
And there's usually nothing they can do unless they can get to their lost child found and bounce it, because you're not going to do anything if you're able to get free blocks out of it.
Honestly, like when I was solo testing, because I didn't have much time to play people, but when I was testing on my computer myself, I was playing against Josh's clay list, and I found that if he didn't have hand protection, my black gray list had a hard time blocking him. And I was like, if he has hand protection, I actually have some really good blocks here. But if his hand is not protected, like he's getting through a lot more than I want him to. So that's why I started to switch to gold, is because it runs on a different axis. It doesn't need to do the reversal on hand protection. Gold just has a lot of just hard to deal with blocks with Herod's Temple and the Emperors and the Herods. So, and then they have the two good enhancements if you ever do get initiative to drop, or if you can need to drop them off of the Executioner. So they're just really good at like ending battles without letting the fight actually happen. And it's just something that was like really stuck with me, is how like the black gray deck really does punish hand control, but if they don't have it in, Clay didn't prioritize it like my deck did, so I couldn't rely on them having it all the time. And that was one thing that was interesting to me.
How impactful do you think running the double hand protection comes with also double enhancement pools each turn?
Yeah.
So how impactful do you think the enhancement pool was?
Enhancement pool is really good because it gets the first sacrifice. It gets I forget some other things, but like it actually really matters. And the first sacrifice is the type of card that you really want to get for your TC play on the next turn. So that's really powerful. The ability to take a look at their hand, strip out an evil character, strip out an evil enhancement, kind of mess up their whole strategy. And you get to plant like, so hand vision is just so important in these games. Like if you get to see what they have, you get to plan around their outs, you get to plan around what they're doing. It changes the game. So the first sacrifice, and there's a few other things. Honestly, like I've kind of let my mind just like reset from a lot of the things. Like I remember some of my misplays and stuff, but I don't even remember my reserve list fully right now. But I do know that the enhancements of Grab was pretty useful when just having the second level of hand protection was really nice.
I think that's a good bit of discussion there on Type 1. I think it's really cool to see that Nativity was never, I think, talked about as the top deck in the format.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like by the end of Nationals, I think Nativity was better than Clay. And I think that was proven with you guys making it to the final chair there. And there was quite a few other Nativity decks checked in. And it'd be interesting to go back and look at who was playing them and see what the overall record for Nativity was compared to people playing the Clay deck, and compare that.
Honestly, I don't even know if I call it better than Clay, but I think I call it sibling to Clay for sure. And like these games, some of them comes down to luck too, right? Like you have to get the right draws. If you draw like a poor starting hand,
yeah, that's why I lost to Justin and Jeremy. Bad luck.
It's just bad luck. There's no.
I'm kidding
at all. But yeah, like, and also like there is the value of going first. I don't know. I'm not sure. I might have gone first in all three games. There was a 60-40 win rate for going first, I believe that Gabe said in Nationals this year. So there's definitely the value in that. So I'm not going to say Nativity's the best deck by far. It might be the best. Close.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's by far.
It might be just tied for Clay, or maybe just a little bit worse. But the point is, it was good enough to fight it. And also, we had the benefit that people they know how to play against Clay a lot more than they know how to play against Nativity. It's a lesser known.
That's important.
Target too.
Okay, so let's shift gears to another category that we played. We'll kind of hit the other two categories we played, and then we'll move on. We do have a pretty spicy spoiler to go over, and then we'll maybe talk briefly about the new set and kind of our early impressions. Kind of leave the bulk of talking about the new set for another episode down the road. But we both played booster on the first day, and booster draft tricked me. I drafted a deck. I showed it to Brian before. He was drafting right behind me, and after we got our decks ready, I let him look at my deck, and he told me that my deck might have been or probably was better than his deck. I felt really strong. I felt like the packs that they included, it was 2 LOC, 2 GOC, and 2 Israel's Rebellion, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right?
I think so, yeah.
On the spread. 2 of each. And then obviously you had roots in there. And I was able to draft so well that like I felt like it was the best deck that I've ever drafted. I was super excited about it. And then I went to play the games, and I think I finished like 12 to 15, somewhere in that range, which is, not terrible. I'm in the top half of the field, and that's always where you want to be as a starting point. And then anything beyond that, is just things broke your way, or maybe you did have the best deck or whatever. But I noticed as I played other players that their decks were really good too. And it hit me afterwards, and I was talking to Chris on that day one. I don't know what I did, like Sounds of Nationals day one that I put out. I was talking to him, and it hit me as we were like talking. This was the first time that you had roots at Nationals in booster draft.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like that kind of went under the radar. Like we didn't talk about that much building up. I'm sure everybody kind of acknowledged at some point and knew that, but I think seeing it play out and seeing how well I drafted, but then running into people that had just as good, if not better decks, I think the draft experience at Nationals was fantastic with roots in the packs. Again, like I thought I was going to do a little bit better than I did, but I did okay. How did your draft experience go? And did you feel like the roots really made an impact? I know that you said that you didn't draft a good deck.
It was a dumpster fire for me.
Okay. Do you normally draft good decks?
Honestly, like I don't know if I have.
I don't know what your baseline is.
Yeah. I love roots. Honestly, like I love drafting. Like if you like Magic drafting was my thing. That's why I built a cube. We'll talk about that later in the mailbag, fourth wall broken. So I love draft, but I don't know if I have I can win. I tend to do okay in draft. I think I draft a little subpar and I play a little bit above par to make up for that currently. I think it's just because I'm not good at reading how the draft pack is going in Redemption. And this is the other thing, like sometimes it depends on who you're playing with. If you're playing with people that are more erratic in what they pick, it makes your picks more erratic. So honestly, like I wish I kind of want somebody else to like, I wish I had video of everybody at my pod in the draft, and I wish I had seen what they did to like get an understanding, because I just need to play more draft. I need to play more Redemption draft. I wish there was an LGP that was draft. Like
I think drafting is one of the areas in Redemption that needs the most. Like a few years ago, there was Top Cut Savvy podcast by John Early and Josiah Beers, where they wanted to help players take the next step up in Type 1. And I think the card value, I mentioned it earlier, just everybody's compacted kind of in that everybody's good range. And then how do you start, take a step above that, but everybody's good. I think booster draft, the cards are getting good. And now it's like, how do we get players to understand draft in a more critical way? Think about each card that they pick. Like there's some people that will go really heavy on defense, and then they have defense, but they can't push through and rescue. And then you have some people that can rescue, but they can't block. And then you have players that can kind of do both things decently well, and they win a lot, like Booster Jones, for example. And I'm sure Jacob did the same with his deck to be able to run neck and neck with him in the field this year. But I think it'd be really cool to find a way to branch out and be able to show people different draft strategies and things like that, because that's not ever talked about on Discord. Nobody really says this is what I do. And I'm not saying that the players that are good at it should have to bear the burden of helping everybody else, because that could be their edge as well. But it'd be nice if there was some resources in that space for the community. One thing I've always said is like getting a player that's good at draft, wearing a GoPro so you see everything that they see in the pack, which card they take,
that, yeah.
and just be able to do that. I think would be really impactful, just to be able to see, oh, that was a really good card. I always take that card, but he passed it up. He passed it up again. Why is he not taking? Well, maybe that's because you're taking a card that you have a little bit of loyalty to, but because you like it, but it doesn't have much of a use in booster draft.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, my deck was crazy, like in a bad way. I had, I think, 7 orange evil characters and 2 orange evil enhancements and 2 pale green evil characters and like 7 evil pale green enhancements. So it was completely the wrong direction, both of those. I picked a bunch of orange cards in the first 2 packs, and I was like, GOC is going to bring me some orange enhancements, and I got 0 orange enhancements from GOC. So it kind of just fell apart. Like a lot of things, the redeeming grace of my deck was Holy Grail, 20 shekels, and Melchizedek, because with 20 shekels I was able to put characters in their territory, and if I knew they had nothing else, I could Melchizedek shuffle it away and then just walk in for free souls. So honestly, a lot of my attacks were just free souls because I kept doing Holy Grailing their characters, Melchizedecing away their characters, just running in for free souls because that hand knowledge off 20 shekels, that card is insane, and so is Holy Grail. They're both insane in booster drafts. So but generally I felt really bad about my draft. That was pretty horrible.
Guess I can't I can't pick up your spirits on that one.
Yeah.
But I did feel like I drafted the best deck I've ever drafted, because the first card I picked a white card.
Yeah.
Like a white hero. And the reason I did that was there was a couple of different color heroes I could have taken out of the first pack, but I took a white one because I was like, white is in every one of these sets and it's in roots.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kept getting stuff passed to me that fit with that, and I ended up with like 11 white heroes.
That's
or something.
Awesome.
And or maybe it was like 9 white heroes and then like 11 white enhancements. And the one funny thing that I did was I took Lazarus because he's a decent numbers guy for playing an enhancement. But I used him a couple of games to bluff that I had something to play, because when he converts to prevent or negate evil or whatever, I had one clay card I could play on him. Funny. And it was, what is it? How do you say the one?
Nunc-Dimittis.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. There you go. I had that one, and I could play that on him if, awesome. They blocked, and then I got a chance to play an enhancement. But a couple of times I did that. And I remember one game where I went in and I was like so confident, like I got it turn 1. I was like, I'm about to punk them. They're going to think I've got something to play on him. And they block, and I just die by the numbers because I didn't have the one enhancement. I was like, yeah, good. Your turn. And so like it was a flimsy inclusion there, but that's kind of the way booster goes sometimes. But I think also having like Death of Unrighteous popularized by being in roots, and people being able to, I feel like most decks had some chump block like that. And I think it's annoying when you have booster draft and like someone ends up with like 2 of those and then nobody else has it in a small booster draft. But at Nationals, it felt like everyone had one of those to kind of stall and keep the game going, to where it didn't feel like overbalanced when like you played yours or they played theirs, because each deck kind of had something they could play. And it's just, the gameplay felt really balanced as well. Like I don't think there was a lot of blowout wins that at least I was sitting around. It seemed like there was at least some back and forth to where I don't think somebody was like, oh, well, you won based on the the opening hand, which sometimes booster draft, you can be like, I'm not rescuing this game, or I'm not blocking this game. 4 souls come out, you're like, that's game over because I have no way to block them. I think the overall experience was really good and balanced, and I'm definitely looking forward to doing more booster drafts throughout the next season with roots and kind of figuring out what the best strategy is when drafting because of the mixed bag that Roots presents.
I was thinking I'd still like one more pack.
Honestly. Oh, me
and
too.
I know that
me
changes
too.
the value, and maybe they have to increase the price a little bit. But I think that you just like one more pack to get you good reserve and just get you the last few playables. Because I still think unless your draft runs perfectly, like people are not fighting over your colors. Because I think people are fighting over my colors. So like maybe I didn't read the table well, or maybe people changed their mind and kind of got into my colors. But you still just need some playables, because I was literally I was like, I can't play this card, but this seems like the least bad out of all the things I could throw in here. So just to get a little bit more to finish out the deck, so you don't have to put in cards that you don't want to play in there. I think it'll be really good. So and I know that might change the prices. That's fine with me. Like, it's Nationals. I'm not going to scoff at another $5 for draft on Nationals. Like, throw an extra one in there. Let's rock it and give us a little bit more time to draft. I'll be happy. I'll be a happy clam. So
yeah,
that sounds fun for me.
Well, I guess there's only one other category that we each played at Nationals, so we can shift focus over and talk about the dreaded teams format, which this is the first year at Nationals, the first year that they've tested not having intro prep, and I think that is around to stay because it definitely, I think, enhances the experience without having to step through all those landmines and counters that's dropped from 4 players having a turn without rescuing before you start your first rescue. And I think that just leads and pushes us toward timeouts. So I definitely enjoyed it not having intro prep throughout the season. Not having it at Nationals was great. The first time you played teams, you played it and there was intro prep.
Yeah.
And then I guess this was just the next time, your second experience with teams, you played it. There was no intro prep.
Yeah.
In a brief overview of the comparisons here, how much impact do you think not having intro prep was on the experience for you as a, let's call you a casual teams player, not someone that's like been in it for a while?
Honestly, like logically and not counting for time, I still like intro prep because I think you want to build decks and teams differently. And because of that, you really want to get some time to set up for like just having a raw 8 cards in hand. If you got an ugly 8 and you haven't had an intro prep to actually like do any filtering from your hand, you can just be like, I don't got anything. And like if your teammate doesn't have anything, like, and it's not likely to happen, but it can happen if you without the intro prep. If you just they get a good attack on you in turn 1, you'd be like, I guess we're gonna surrender like 2 souls before we get to my teammate's full turn. Like, so like, but the fact is, like, intro prep just takes too much time, right? Like, the games and teams are only going to 2 rounds without intro prep. With intro prep, you're looking at 1 round. So like, I think it's a necessary evil to cut it. But it does feel like, because teams values all that setup a lot differently, because setup is double value, right?
Yes, I get where you're coming from, but I also, like, you're talking about all the infrastructure of a deck. Like, you have a lot more of that in teams. But the reason you have more of that in teams is because it's been slanted that way for years, probably over a decade at least. I don't know when intro prep was first implemented, but it's been slanted that way because you've gotten this turn where you get to just build your infrastructure before the first turn of the game. And so people approach teams with, this is how teams decks are built.
Teams is SimCity. Let me build up my little town here.
Right. And I think it might take a little while to like wash that out of people's minds and deck building practices. But I think type 1, you build your deck to where you can ensure that you can block turn 1. You also want to rescue turn 1. Those are your priorities.
Yeah.
And people go to teams and those become backseat. Their priority becomes, I want to put all these counters out that my opponent has to go through, which slows the game down, forces you to go more towards timeouts. And I think that if you just approach it with a more like, I've got a block on turn 1, I've got a rescue on turn 1, and you let that be the focus there, just like it is in type 1.
Yeah.
And type 2 for that example, every other, category where you're building your deck from the card pool. I think it kind of balances it and fixes itself, so to speak.
It's just really interesting. It's just, I think it's very volatile without the intro prep. But
it is definitely very volatile. I'll give you that, no matter what you do.
But also, I think it also, like you said, it presents a lot of extra cool deck building things that you could do. Like, I kind of like the idea, like you can run a Babylonian Unity defense, and I don't think you can do that in Type 1. Like I know he did, but like I don't think that's a top defense in Type 1. But because you don't need that to be your sole defense, like your teammate can bring defense too. Like you can actually bring a defense that may not be enough to handle everything on its own, but it brings something really in a niche. And
Each
I think that's
teammate
really cool.
needs to be able to block one time.
Yeah,
And I think if you can, and that's where like Babylonians can work in teams because you only have to block one time. Nebuchadnezzar can get that play for you.
Yeah.
And then you can use the themed defense to maintain the unity for Babylonian merchants. And I think that was a really cool play. And I was not aware that the decision to do that was made by Brandon, who is a newer player to the game. But that was a really good call because Babylonian merchants is so impactful. It used to be one of those things to where before rotation happened, when you could do Nebuchadnezzar and you had a couple of other strong things in Crimson Babylonian theme, people were doing that. And that was like, instead of darkness going to Priest of Zeus, it was darkness is going to Babylonian merchants, and it was impactful immediately out of the gate. So I do think that that was a really good call. But as far as like individual decks that we each played, I'll kind of talk about ours first. But me and Jeremy really struggled this season to find anything that like we felt confident in as far as playing. We went through a few different things. The first state tournament that we did, which was the Alabama State Tournament, we did Ashkelon.
Nice.
The first one we played at, I did go to Kentucky State as the first state tournament of the season, but Jeremy was not able to stay for the final day, so he did not get to play teams with me. I actually played that tournament teams with Keegan. That was his first teams experience, and he loves teams because he likes playing with Dad or whatever. But when me and Jeremy played, the Ashkelon combo had just come out, and so Jeremy came and stayed the night one night before the Alabama State Tournament. And we were working on teams decks, and we wanted to use that time to kind of figure out what we were going to play for the season because we didn't want to be finding it right before each tournament.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way with the Ashkelon combo to where you can actually rid each player of all 8 cards in their hand.
Good grief.
And instead of just the 4 because of the triggered 4 limit. And the way that you do that, it requires you to get to Revealer Lost Soul or Darkness Lost Soul.
Interesting.
Because the inactive player, so we built our decks, at least the Ashkelon and pretty much all the other decks we build for Jeremy to take the first turn. Jeremy's always like our lead player. So if we win the dice roll, he's going first. You want to be able to get the inactive player an evil character that is a Philistine so that you both have unity for Ashkelon.
Okay.
And so if you do that, and each of you control that, then each time it triggers, we each get to make them discard a card.
Good grief.
So it would discard all 8.
That's crazy, dude.
We ended up pulling it off, but we did it so late in the game that they had like they had one of those cards that for every time you do something, they get to draw 1.
Yeah.
And
Damascus?
I don't know if it was Damascus or if it was Treacherous Land, but it was one of the two.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't play around that after we had rid their hand. So in order for us to advance to our win condition, we helped them build their hand back up. But it did take us I think we did it on the second round, but it was my turn. So Jeremy went first. We did the full round. Jeremy took his turn. The first opponent took their turn. And then on my turn, we finally pulled it off. So it was kind of cool to pull it off, but just such a gimmicky deck. There's no way you can actually rely on that. So we scratched that. Then we started playing the Choose the Fools, and we did okay with that. We lost one game to Sean and Brandon with it, but then we smoked Jaden and who was Jaden playing with? He was playing with someone at the Southeast Regional Tournament. I forget who. I apologize, whoever you are. But we just got off to one of those starts, and Jeremy won the game on his second turn. And he went first. So literally the quickest you could have won the game. Yeah. We won it, and I think it was a 5-0 win.
That's awesome.
Pretty good there. But then we started worrying about relying on the fools because it's hard to rely on those because you have to draw them to get them in.
Naturally, yep.
Yeah. And they don't give you any real value otherwise. Like, obviously, you can get the one that's in your color for your defense or whatever, and you can play enhancements on them, but you don't want them sticking around in territory because you don't want to do the negative impact that you're going to have to do for them.
100%. And
then we switched, we took the fools out and we switched to placed orange things. And I really think that that's probably the deck we should have stuck with. In fact, I thought at one time, because I had been playing Nativity, I was like, well, one of us could play this deck and then I could like play Nativity, and I think it would balance off of that pretty well. That way, not both of us is on placing and choosing. One of us has just got a good, strong value offense, and you can use like Star of Bethlehem to offset the speed, where you're giving the one deck all the good consistency dominance and things, and the other deck has the B grade dominance, so to speak. But we ended up settling on going purple Disciples. So we thought, hey, we'll take Harvest Time out. We'll throw in Guardian, the new promo, dominant. And I hate that card, and I will never play that card again. In fact, I now have an incomplete national promo.
This reminds
because
me,
I refuse to buy the $100 or whatever it's going to cost version of that.
Guardians of Your Soul?
I don't know if it was a hard bet. I don't know if we hammered that down.
I think it was. I think it was. We'll have to have some people go back into the forum episodes and tell us about it.
Okay. Well, the people that won teams had Guardian in their deck, so somebody in first place.
That's teams. It's not. That's a Type 1-2 player.
Okay. I don't know what you want me to tell you, man.
Hey, I thought it was a Type 1-2 player. I think I won. I this one. I'm gonna take the victory.
Okay,
here.
you win that. I won the fantasy draft. I won the fantasy draft on my team.
That was good.
But anyway, so we settled on playing Purple Disciples, where we wouldn't necessarily have to convert, and we found the best ways to kind of speed out to our dominance, so we would always have one to reveal. And we also know that dominants are really impactful in teams, so if you can get to them quicker than your opponent, great. We had Fishing Boat, Good Seed.
Andrew was good.
Yeah, Andrew too. That's the one that converts and negates all the stuff. And then we had the pool for Transfiguration.
Oh, I was thinking Thomas is the one that got you the
that's
dominance.
Yep, the dominant searches.
Yeah.
I think Andrew's the one that converts, and then we had the Transfiguration play for a solid rescue there.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we could time that up to where we could do that around Guardian. Mm-hmm. But we plan to not be converting heroes and things, but that really didn't work out that well. Guardian really fails at the main job because Brood of Vipers just eats it up, and by the time you can actually play it after even if you had like Jeshua down and they top decked it with Brood of Vipers, or you top decked it on their target, by the time you draw it and get a chance to play it, they've already done the Soul Hide thing, CBN, and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So, not a big fan, but me and Jeremy, we played that, and then on defense we played mostly Philistines. I think Deceiver was in there, but then it was mostly Philistines because it gives you access to Goliath, gives you access to Herdsman, all the cool things that it does, but it also keeps you in lower brigade count in case they do get an early Matthew off, and you don't want it to be crazy. But I was not thrilled with our decks. I don't think we ever really settled on one that we were confident in or we really believed strongly in, and it just finally nationals happened and we hadn't gotten ahead of it to where we felt like we had a deck prepared, and the results bared that, and we finished 5th. So, I mean, it was really cool to see teams expand to 13 teams and have a lot of participation.
A lot of good players.
I really liked that and the direction that
Chad did amazing.
It shows. How did you feel about your decks? And you want to just tell us what you guys played and some of the things, ins and outs that you built into it?
So it was a slightly modified Nativity and a slightly modified Claylist, and we spread the dominance out as we thought best between them. Honestly, when it ran hot, it ran pretty hot, but I think that it could have used a lot more updates for teams. I think for one, having the same defense is probably not ideal because while you get to double up on some things, like you also just don't get to present different blocks. Like a few times during the tournament, I'd be like, I got this, and Tim's like, I got the same thing. So we don't actually have a really good block here. Like, one of us gets to try it and hope it works. We don't have like the perfect answer. Like, if I had Goliath, then we know for sure the Goliath might work on certain blocks. Like, but we both had Herods, so we're kind of just playing the same stuff. I'm just hoping that they don't have an answer to the Herod's Temple. Like Emperor Claudius Claudius is the New Testament. The New Testament Protection Emperor did amazing the whole day. Like, he's the best emperor in a New Testament meta, and he did amazing. But in general, I think that we definitely made some changes. There's some cards that we wanted to put in there. I think we would have put in the 2 soul protecting souls. I think those are a low commitment cost way to fight.
Yeah,
soul
you don't commit to Guardian.
Exactly. You're not committing to guarding your souls like a fool. I'm just kidding. But yeah, like,
oh no, you're 100% right. I feel like a fool. I think that card is right up there with Angel Wars, the set. So
yeah, exactly. So, but honestly, like, there's a lot to digest. It was really fun, and I definitely made a ton of misplays that are still in my head that haunt me to this day. Playing a flight into Egypt when I thought I had hand disadvantage, and it turned out to be exactly equal. So it was just a 4-2, and then they got to bury all the souls afterwards. That was sad, but those things happen. It was fun.
You live and learn.
Yeah, you do.
All right. Well, we'll get ready to move over to our safe space, I guess, behind the cloak of anonymity. I don't know what we've decided to call this, but we're gonna play the spoiler announcement, and then we're gonna talk about some cool stuff on the other side of that. So here we go.
Let's go.
The following segment contains spoilers that may or may not have been approved by the Royal Order for the Secrecy of Expansion Sets. Proceed with caution.
Well, I don't know if this spoiler was approved by the Royal Order for the Secrecy of Expansion Sets, but I do know that this spoiler, that is going to be the seasonal promo coming up. It's not available just yet. It's not on the host guide, so you'll be looking for that in the fall. But I know that this is 100% approved by my buddy Jonathan Gomez, which, if you don't know, he goes by, I think his screen name is Xonathan on Discord, and he hasn't been around a lot this season, so you might not have interacted with him much, but he is known as the mill guy. Like, he is always playing the mill deck, trying to mill the opponent's deck. And this card was made for him. So the card that we are talking about is Queen. I'm going to let Jake say her name so I don't blow it up. What's her name?
Queen Tapanese. So that's what the
Tapanese.
website told us. So
okay, Queen Tapanese. Yeah. And Queen Tapanese does some cool stuff, and she can be paired with some other cards that do even cooler stuff.
Definitely.
But this is an Egyptian royalty card, because obviously she's a queen. Her numbers are 2-5, which is really cool, because I think she has the chance to get initiative to play something as well.
Mm-hmm.
So not only does she do a really cool ability, she might get to play something with initiative.
Exactly.
But she has an X identifier, and X is the number of brigades revealed. We've seen that before. We've seen that on one tax collector named Matthew the Publican.
Is that a card that people play? I've never heard of it. Is it good?
I hear it's okay. The ability here says negate a card or draw one. Great. I can negate a card or draw one. The negate a card is intentional because you can negate a good card. You can negate a neutral card.
Neutral.
So you can hit their crowds, you can hit their storehouse, whatever. Because you're going to want to get rid of protection.
Hand protection, yeah. Or deck protection.
Both, but you might want to reveal the hand and things. If blocking, reveal an opponent's hand or discard pile. I got a feeling that they knew this card had already been designed and developed and was just waiting for release when they made the storehouse that protects your discard pile. I think that's also kind of shows the layers of card design, because they knew the Edomites were coming out as well. But this says, if blocking, reveal an opponent's hand or discard pile. You may discard the top X cards of their deck, cannot be negated.
That's crazy, dude.
So if you reveal 9 brigades, instead of drawing 9 like Matthew, you're discarding 9 off the top of their deck.
That's crazy, bro.
That's ridiculous.
Crazy.
That's
ridiculous.
ASA 9, ASA 10, ASA 11. That is crazy good.
This is insane.
So the other thing that was shared, and at one point someone said that they thought that I had said it, and then Gabe said he thought Jaden came up with it first, but I think it was actually Rob Smith that came up with it first. But you can use, what is his name, like Jehoiakim, the Puppet King or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can give a card to an opponent to protect Meek Lost Souls. I don't care that I'm not playing Meek Lost Souls. I'm going to use Storehouse to get unified language.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it to them that has every brigade in the game on it, give it to their hand, and then I'm going to use his band ability to band to this card that's going to reveal the hand and discard. How many brigades are in the game? Is it 17?
17, dude.
17 cards off the top of their deck?
17 cards at the top of the deck. CBN. You're not negating
CBN. That's insane.
That's insane.
If you pull that off one time, you shake hands. Just about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not quite there, but it's close. Like
it's pretty close. Yes.
Yeah. And that's crazy, dude. Like, there's so many interesting things about this because this is really well designed. Like, the only thing I have against this card is it might be too powerful, but like, otherwise, this card is really well designed. Like,
well, I have two things. It's a name that people are going to have to struggle with figuring out how we're going to pronounce
if you want to,
Yeah, Queen Latifah. That's what we're going to affectionately refer to it as. Queen Tifa.
So it's got the if blocking thing, so you cannot just turn this into a hero and just like chunk it into
no
battle.
Jaden shenanigans.
Exactly. No, none of that. It's got the reveal the discard pile, and like, I know you said Edomites there. Like, if you're running pale green defense, you're not running Edomites. They might be running Edomites, but like usually they're going to hit your discard pile first. So technically they could hit their own, but like I'm going to say this actually matters, the discard pile, because that's one of the things with Matthew is one of the things you do against Matthew is if you know that you're on the play, you empty your hand. If you need to discard some cards at the end of the turn, you discard some cards, and you're like, okay, you can Matthew me now. I have 3 brigades in hand. But with her, like even if you empty your hand, even if you discard away like a high brigade card, like a delivered or something, you're like, okay, I got that out of my hand. She can say, oh, I see you're delivered and all your other cards in your discard pile. I'm gonna count those instead. Like that's amazing. I think this is just really like powerful. Like I'm worried. Like I don't like discard as an ability because I like how gold does it. I like reserving better because reserving feels more fair in the sense like you can go get it back eventually. This discard is kind of crazy, and I'm a little bit scared of this card. But at the same time, if people start getting more restricted in their brigades, it's not going to be as bad, right? If this goes for 3, that's not as crazy. If it goes for 4, that's kind of it's getting there, but like it's still not insane.
Well, I think the big thing is being able to give that card with that one guy.
Unified Kingdom, yeah.
Yeah, or just a card of similar high brigade count.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I do think that this does negatively right now is I think we were in a point to where people were willing to start to bring down their brigade totals so that we could lower the effect of Matthew. But now I think 2 things. I think this kind of enables people to play the Matthew style on their turn 1 because you want to dig through as much of your deck as you can turn 1, get those cards in play so that they're protected from her ability to discard, depending on how popular she becomes. And I think it might push us towards turn 1 aggro style meta that I feel like we came away from a little bit, not much, but a little bit from 2 seasons ago, like 2 nationals ago, the one in Tennessee. This nationals, I think, was a little bit less. Like if you had a less impactful draw on turn 1, you could still, come back and win that game. And we're moving in that direction. And now I don't know what this does to affect that kind of spectrum of where we fall on trying to rush through our deck to get as many cards in play and then, out of the reach of this.
Yeah. This is it's going to be an important part of the metagame, I think, for quite a while. So we just got to keep an eye on it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that combo is good enough and it sees consistency that we actually get a ban on Unified Kingdom? Because first off, no one's playing that.
I
no
think
one's
the
playing that
ban
card.
would probably be on the guy that gives the card, and
Yeah, that could be on. That could be on him too. Well, honestly, he's pretty fair otherwise too. Unified Kingdom is the easiest ban, and since no one's playing it,
well,
literally the only reason
I
to play
say
the card
that is if you get rid of Unified Kingdom, then some other card takes its place. Whatever card has the most brigades at that point to just keep doing it at a lesser clip.
Yeah, it's not Unified Kingdom. I forgot the name, but Unified
Confused Languages.
Confused Languages.
Is that it?
It might be. Let's see.
I don't know why I said Unified Kingdom.
It's not Confused Languages either. But the point is,
what is the card that we have been talking about? Someone's gonna be like, "Hey, the guys on the podcast were talking about something they don't know anything about." Unified language. There we go. That's why I said Unified Kingdom.
We got Confused Language. We got Unified Kingdom. It's just Unified Language. So.
It's something within those realms of words.
Got it. We do words. We do words great.
I do think that the thing that's going to happen now that the community knows about this card, someone's going to try to figure out how you bring the Puppet King, the Confused Languages, and her, or maybe you're playing Egyptians, or you're playing Brown or whatever. So you only have to get one character and the card from the reserve, to where this basically becomes a combo that comes out of the reserve.
Yeah, because
I think people are going to want to try to splash this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of the nature of us as Redemption players right now. And I know that by design, cards are trying to limit that. And the card designers are doing a good job of trying to make it a little bit more difficult for us to just freely splash things without a cost to them. Usually now you're seeing cards that have to maximize this, you need to be in theme with some type of wording on the cards. But for this, I think people are going to try to pull it out of reserve and splash it potentially. And I think if we find a way to do that, then this card might be over the power level for the game. But again, this is all speculation. And the card designers, I would trust that they have tested this and they feel like it's within. I'm sure that they think that this is at the max power level for the game, but they probably think it's within reason, or they wouldn't be releasing the card. I think these guys have all shown their heart for the game. I don't think they're trying to intentionally release something that's busted. But when I see this card, I'm like, that's a definite impact. But it also adds a little bit. It's almost, I want to call this card the Joker, because you remember the scene in The Dark Knight where he's like, you inject a little bit of chaos and people lose their mind. I think you have cards in your deck we just talked about our decks for Nationals. You had a card in there for a specific purpose. But if you can't rely on those cards to do their very specific purpose, then you start having to build your deck in a way to where you don't rely on this card is for this card's for that. You have to just start building good value throughout your entire deck without these specific use cases.
Combos.
Because you can't rely on them.
Yep.
And maybe that's what they're wanting to do, is push us toward thinking that way. Inject a little bit of chaos with this Joker card. So I'm not going to call her Queen Latifah. Joker is what it's called for me from now on.
There you go.
So Joker, just injecting that chaos to where your deck has to be able to lose some cards, but them not be so impactful to whatever your deck's trying to do. So your deck
has to have some redundancy. Yeah,
your deck has to just layer upon what it's trying to do versus this is what I'm doing, and then I can specifically put this in and do that and that and that. So, I mean, I'm interested to see the impacts of it for sure.
Gonna be interesting.
Now, I do think that I want to keep it brief here, but obviously you've seen the new cards.
Yeah, some of them.
They're out on Land of Redemption, so you can go and refer to them. I've seen them, and I've built decks with them, or well, at least one deck. I've built the Warriors deck. But what are your early impressions of this set? And then I'll give my take.
Yeah, I haven't had fully time to digest them, but it feels like the power level has been pushed. And I think we're going to talk about later is hopefully if I remember correctly, I said victorious being or victorious angel. That victorious angel, that guy feels pushed to me. He's an exchange and a draw. And push is not a bad word. It just means that they put this card is going to be good, and we're making sure this card's good. like that card's going to be good. Like if you take the draw away, that card is still good. So the card draws and exchanges. That's amazing. I think you're going to see that card for years to come. Woman at the Bez, wow, she looks great. I like Stone Carrier. There's lots of cool cards in there like that. I think they said like let's crank this card up to 11. Let's crank this card up an extra portion because you like to get people invested in a new brigade, they need to have some strong cards to build around, right? Like obviously not every card in the set, like some of the cards are going to be 12 Jordan Stones, but some of the cards you want to push with some value and like get people excited about them. And I see some cards in here that I feel are pushed in a good way, and I like it. So like I think the set definitely has a higher power level than IR. Is it as powerful as GOC? I think some cards definitely are at GOC's level. I'm not sure if the whole set and the whole themes, like that remains to be seen. We'll have to see how the themes play out. We'll have to see in a few months if GOC is still, like, is it 50-50? Is GOC 30% of the meta? Is GOC gone? Like, I don't know. We'll see. Like, but I think this one actually has a real shot of, like, gaining a foothold in the meta that I don't think IR had a chance to. And this set also improves IR because there's more wilderness heroes. It amplifies it. So we might see the meta shift in ways that we haven't seen for a while because GOC has been dominating the metas, but there's some powerful cards and there's some push cards, and I like it. I'm excited.
I think that's the key thing is you're excited about it. So you're excited, I'm excited, and I think that's something. And even as simple as it sounds, like everybody should be excited about new cards coming out, and people were excited when IR came out, but the aesthetics of it, and I mentioned that later on, breaking the fourth wall when we do the mailbag, I think. But I think just the aesthetic of it, and then it made you play a certain play style. So like if you didn't like that play style, like that attrition war play style, like long grinding games, then there wasn't really much for you in the set because it was trying to create a brand new identifier on offense and defense, which dominated the cards in the set. Mm-hmm. And then both of those played the same style. So it was limited there. And I think this set is really well balanced. And you talk about some cards being at the GOC power level, but they're in a very controlled way.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like just so freely splashable cards. And it seems like they've built these themes to almost kind of like what I was just talking about with the new Queen card, the Joker card. You
inject a little chaos.
Yeah, you just build good value within a brigade and a theme, and then you build your deck there, and then some games you get to use this, maybe you don't. Mm-hmm. But you have kind of just good value in the theme of what you're playing. Like Prophets has a lot of tools that they can do to do their things. I think the Warriors have a lot of tools to do their things. Mm-hmm. And I think Joshua feels like it could be insane, but there's people saying that Prophets is the best in the deck or in the set. And then you flip over and you got the same with the defenses. And I think there's just excitement around all of that we haven't had. And I think the power level is pushed, but it's pushed in a controlled way to where I don't think I don't look at any card and be like, oh, that's broken.
Yeah.
And when GOC came out, it wasn't very long before people were like, oh, you can do this busted combo with that. So when it had that elevated power level and then people found a broken combo, it felt really bad. And I think that tainted a little bit of GOC because, the power level being high and having that combo. And there was just immediate, like, this is overboard. And I don't think this is overboard, but I think it's good. And I think this is probably the best design set that I've seen since I've been in the game. I don't know what the sets were like when they first came out with the card pool, because the card pool is always changing, and I know about the cards in retrospect. I didn't know about like when Cloud of Witness came out and it was the newest card. That might have been looked at as like just a very good, well-designed set for the card pool at the time. But I think this could end up being the best design set that.
Do you think it's even better than Angel Wars?
I give it a little edge over Angel Wars.
Maybe really, that's high praise. That's high praise.
That is high praise. Now I am already working on the purple theme, the Purple Warriors theme, and I know that they did create them so they're relying on the weapons and stuff. So it almost makes you play a different way than you're used to because you want to put your stuff down to equip your heroes so they get their benefits, but then you don't necessarily have as many enhancements in hand to play to respond to the battle. And I think that that's just a mental shift. Now, I have already found one way to take a Dino Spear and get to discard 2 evil characters in the same turn on the same rescue. Awesome. And I'm sure other people could find it if they looked enough. But once I get a semi-refined list to where I feel comfortable that this list is a good deck, then I'll end up sharing that and have that all in there. But I'm having a lot of fun playing with the Purple Warriors. Even just goldfish hands. I haven't played an actual game with them, but I've probably goldfished 100 plus hands of it, and I'm enjoying that. And I think that this is the first set where I've ever built a deck and just been grinding, trying to learn the cards and the interactions and all the lines of play so quickly from the set release. Like even with the blue stuff coming out last year, it took me a little while to like dive into it, and I'm a blue guy, but this set just... It feels like it has a little bit of the it factor. Yeah. Like, I don't know what it is, but it just feels like it's it. This set might be him. You know, the set might be him. I am definitely looking forward to seeing what the early results of the meta are as people start to build and test decks here. I know we're probably close to a month away from the official release to where you have the official Lackey plugin and things for people to play. And the cards are available at the retailers with the singles and things of that nature. But I'm excited for that. But I think that is all we have here to talk about on the spoilers. And we've got the community mailbag that we've hinted at a couple of times.
It's gonna be good.
I don't know where else to tell you and put this in, but I ended up not getting to record anything for day 2 or 3 of Nationals when I did day 1, Sounds of Nationals. John Early, though, took my microphone and walked around and got some sound clips for me, maybe some interviews. I don't know what it is. I haven't listened to it yet, but I will take those and just drop them at the end of this episode as like just an extra bonus. We'll do it almost like one of those Avengers things, like the movie plays out and you get the full trailer and then you get a random thing at the end. So after the outro, the voiceover outro for the episode, I'll just throw them in at the end of that. So
I like that.
If you skip through the episode, you might not hear this part and then you might not know about that part. But if you listen through, there's going to be some bonus content there for you. So otherwise, we're going to get you the community mailbag. And here we go.
Here we go.
Now, it's your chance to join the podcast and have your voice heard as we get ready to answer your questions with this week's Community Mailbag.
All right, that's right. This is the Community Mailbag. This is our first post-Nationals Community Mailbag. So I am super excited that we are now in the post-National season, and that's not usually something that a lot of Redemption players say. Usually there's a little bit of a lull after Nationals, but I think the community right now, compared to years past, is really engaged with the game right now. They're already trying to refine decks, come up with new decks with the new cards, and it seems like we're just immediately hitting the ground running and starting to, I guess, see at least what the early workings of the meta for this coming season is going to look like. And so I'm hoping, I haven't looked at all of these in detail, but I'm hoping some of these are Nationals inspired kind of recollection, and then also some excitement for, like right now, this fun period, getting to figure out what the new cards do and things. So we've got some questions here. I will let you go, Mr. Co-host, and kick us off with the first question.
So we got not Patrick Mahomes. What, Travis Kelce's sweetheart?
Taylor Swift. That's going to be an awkward locker room.
I know, right? Like, love triangle. Anyways, so we got Taylor Swift asking, I can't do a Taylor Swift impression.
I got one for you. Look what you just made me do.
Oh, nice. I knew this question was going to be trouble when it walked in, but who is the best singer in the Redemption community? Man, have I heard anybody sing? I don't know if I've heard anybody sing, so I have to go on voices, and I think Jay would be a really nice voice to hear sing. I imagine that when you're at a church with him, Jay has a good singing voice.
Okay, you mentioning Jay with singing, and this is what comes to mind. Those old school Baptist preachers that also do the singing, but they use their hand to keep time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
I'll fly away, oh glory.
I'll fly away. But he'll have that southern twang in there and everything. It'll be really nice.
I'll fly away.
Oh, glory.
Oh, glory.
Glory.
On a hill far away
stood an old rugged cross.
I'm sorry for, I'm not making fun of hymns. I'm just making fun of Jay singing hymns.
Exactly. Still, I think it'd be awesome to be with.
How do we take a random question and turn it into a joking on Jay?
That's the Agger wild card. That's what you got here.
Well, you've already played your wild card.
Yeah.
I have no idea who the best singer would be. I do know that at least in some capacity, I believe Sean, which you met him at Nationals, I believe, Sean Severs, from Chris's Playgroup.
Okay.
I believe he does some like stage stuff, like plays and things.
Very fancy.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe that's what I've heard.
Okay.
But I have heard him like singing like he'll get a random line stuck in his head, and you go to a tournament in Knoxville and you'll hear that line sung the entire weekend.
That sounds awesome.
So all Friday night, all Saturday until you leave. And it's not completely unpleasant. So I believe that's the only Redemption player I've ever heard sing, besides like Jeremy singing in the car when we were on the road to Nationals. But I'm not going to talk about Jeremy. I don't want to make him uncomfortable, but
I want to go there. We can sing hymns all the way up to the National. That'd be amazing. We can do that.
Unfortunately for the people that rode to Nationals with me, Brian, Steven, Keegan, they had to endure my singing, which is awful. My singing is absolutely awful. I have a hole in the bucket where I'm supposed to carry the tune.
I've never heard that one before. That's such a like, oh man, middle America like saying. That's cool.
It's a redneck phrase.
Yeah. That's the best way to say it. It's a redneck phrase.
I do believe though that I think I heard that Mitch might lead worship or is involved with worship at his church.
That's awesome.
So by default, if Mitch does do that, I'm going to say him just by default. If that's part of his role with the church and no one's kicked him out. Now, if that's not his role, then I guess I default back to, Sean as the only person I've heard sing for real. So that's where we're at. So,
and if you're good at singing, let us know so we can send in clips. It'd be great.
Yeah. Maybe we should have like a podcast version of American Idol, but it's Redemption Idol.
The Threshing Idol.
Let's have the Threshing Idol. They shall have no idols before me, except for Redemption Idol. I think we could probably host that and have people send in clips of them singing.
That'd be awesome.
And then we share them and pick who.
And they could make a musician promo for who the winner. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
The elders. We get everybody involved here. This could be great.
There you go. Team effort. So beyond Taylor Swift here, we've got a newcomer to the game. It looks like Yugi Moto.
What time? Look at your watch. What time is it? It's time to duel.
Duel. I believe in the heart of the cards.
My grandpa's deck has no weak cards. Kaiba.
I have assembled Exodia, the Forbidden One.
Obliterate.
Dude, so many cool well, I don't know so much if they're cool memories of growing up watching that, but
I just love how he always cheated. He's like, I'm gonna attack the moon. Now, you can't do that. That card doesn't do that. No, watch.
But anyway, Yugi Moto, the king of games. It says, as the king of games, I've decided to try out this game, and thanks to my grandpa, I got a couple of boxes of Israel's Inheritance. Grandpa's got a good eye for good sets. Well, that's a good set to invest into.
Yes.
Each deck is interesting, but I am having a hard time choosing, so I will ask you, what theme is best to choose and what hero is most like my favorite monster, the Dark Magician? Okay, so I'm going to say, here we go. I'm going to say that you should choose the Warriors.
Oh.
And the reason is Dark Magician had a lot of purple going on, right? Wasn't his whole suit like purple?
That's true. He's
So
black and purple, yeah.
Warriors, and then obviously one of the best warriors that you can get that is a good solo attacker because Dark Magician did his work solo.
Oh, he did.
And he had, remember, he had that Dark Arts magic card that he could add to him to get his attack up higher.
I didn't know that one.
Okay, so imagine that little 2-card piece. You've got Benaiah, the Lion Slayer, but equipped with the Snatched Spear.
Ooh.
So I feel like that. And then the spear is kind of like, the staff the magician has.
Yes.
So I feel like I've answered that question perfectly.
That's
so
perfect.
Now you try to you pick up the scraps. What would you suggest?
What would be the best? Okay.
It's
let's
time
say
to duel.
let's say we'll go with
Kunai
Joshua
with chains.
because Joshua is good at taking cards, and the Dark Magician he got a bunch of cards that he could use. It's like the hats and stuff. So I don't know.
Oh yeah,
this is a very big stretch here, but you already took the best one, so I'm picking up the second best one. So Joshua takes cards. He gets cards. That's the closest I can get to you on that one.
Okay. So there you go. That's your favorite hero, and that's the theme to get into.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next up, I guess it's back to you. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, this one comes from Jay Chambers himself. Thank you for hosting Nationals. We just wrapped up Nationals. Seems like a good time to ask for your Mount Rushmore of Redemption, specifically Type 1-2 players. So, again, I'm still...
We're babies in Redemption.
We're babies in Redemption, okay? So I don't know, the deep history. So I got to pick 4 people to put on the Mount Rushmore of Redemption.
Okay, let's say this.
Yes.
Let's just say I feel like I have a little bit more knowledge of older players, but I don't know how good that knowledge is as far as, how good they really were.
Yeah.
But just keep yours condensed to players that you know so that you feel confident giving the answer. You're not just throwing a name out for name recognition.
Okay.
So just out of the players that you know and you've seen play, who's on your Mount Rushmore? And then I'll kind of try to make a more historical.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to go with 4 here. The guy that beat me in Nationals at the final game, we'll go with Babooni Tim. He'll get one of the spots. And we'll give him, I guess you can't, what can you do monkey-ish on I think you can't really do anything monkey, can you?
Anyway, you just gotta play Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah, exactly. So he'll have that sound playing underneath him. And then we're going to go for Jaden. I think, Jaden is definitely, one of those players you're, always, he'll just take he always takes a unique deck, and he always does well with it. And, I wonder if he'd actually just played, the best decks if you just won the whole thing. But, or I don't even know if his deck, I didn't get a chance to see his deck, really. So, I don't know, but Jaden's always this huge threat. He's always cooking up new stuff. He is really, really useful in that Type 1-2 player. Next, I go for Josh Protrats, Kevin the Dude. That guy is I think he's the strong, the strongest, the most reputable deck builder in the community. Right? He's very good at seeing lines for decks being sharpened up. When I was going into the Nationals, I was like, Clay, I can beat Clay. And then he sharpened it up. I was like, I don't know if I could beat that anymore. I had to switch my defense. He's very good at, honing a deck. So I got to put Potrats there. He's really good at, building. And also, he's got that Discord. I think he deserves it for that. And then finally, I think let's put Jeremy Chambers as, I think, probably the most crisp play usually overall.
You gotta slap Jay in the face on his own question and put his brother.
Honestly, I think he would say I would be wrong to put him there.
If there was a regular season Mount Rushmore, Jay might be on that.
Oh, definitely.
But not postseason.
I think he wants
not in the playoffs, baby.
I think he wants to get his his title or I think he's looking for that to make his stake to the Rushmore. So I don't think he would. I think he would tell me not to put him on the top 4 right now. So that's what I'd say. That's my Mount Rushmore.
Okay. So one thing I want to say, because I don't know, I don't feel like there's a lot of conversation we get to have about specific players and their deck building tendencies unless we're spotlighting something that they've done. But you talking about Josh Potrats being such a good deck builder and seeing lines of play that maybe other people don't or whatever. I think the best thing that he does is he builds a redemption deck with no emotion. And I'm not saying that he's like heartless.
No,
I'm saying he doesn't get tied to a card. Oh, I like this card. He doesn't care. He might like it, and then the next minute he's ripping it up and throwing it out and going with something else because he has no loyalty to any card.
Yeah.
He has loyalty to Son of God, Second Coming, Three Woes. Might change this season. Who knows?
No,
probably
not.
Change. But well, some people are talking. I'm just on the whims of. Well, I know that Tyler I think he's put out 2 decks now that doesn't have Three Woes in it.
No, I think that's wrong.
Well, okay. So let's just say that Josh he's loyal to those cards, and I don't know, maybe like Covet Lost Soul would be the next one. He used to be really loyal to Virgin Birth, and you see how quickly he's like, it doesn't fit in every deck anymore.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to say that because he is a stone cold like deck builder. Yeah, like, he doesn't care about the cards. Like it's hard for me to break away from blue, and he doesn't care about. Yeah, I want to play this brigade or whatever. He just plays what's good.
Abraham looks at you with those eyes like, "Don't cut me," and you're like, "Fine, I'll keep Abraham." And Josh is like, "No, you're gone. You're done. You're done."
Hungry, yeah. And that's proof that I can't sing. So, I think for Mount Rushmore, I think you have to look at it a couple of different ways. So approaching the subject matter of picking a Mount Rushmore, anytime you do that, you obviously know that there's going to be some people that are not on the list that could be on the list, and it's all like subjective. It's not objective in any way because like you're only able to name players or feel comfortable naming players that you know and things, and you didn't name anybody. Like heck, Tim just started in the game, and you got him on yours, which is, I mean, by all means. Within your 2 going on 3 years in the game, he's up there. Yeah. But it's hard to take 30. What do we just celebrate? The 30th national tournament. 30 years of this game are going into the 30th year of this game and just nail it down. And then that little thing at the end, specifically type 2, I feel like that eliminates some of the best players this game's ever seen.
Wait, type 1, 2 player.
I'm sorry. Yeah. What'd I say, type 2?
Type 2, yeah.
The Allsteads are going to be so happy I said that. But focusing on type 1 specifically kind of rules out, or I mean, I guess you could consider, but Justin Allstead, a stalwart in the game, been really good for really long. He took some time away and he's working his way back up. Beat the crap out of me at Nationals. I should have shaken hands as soon as he rolled the dice. But you don't really put him here if you're specifically focusing on type 1-2 player. Yeah. And then there's other people that are in that category. Like I'm gonna throw out what I think is historically accurate. I believe on the list, John Early has to be up there. John Early has to be there. He has won at least 3 nationals. I believe he won in 2015. And then he won back-to-back in 2018 and 2019. So I believe that's accurate. And whether you want to say he's like super engaged in the game and deck building or anything like that within the community, he hasn't been super involved as far as like, here's a deck I built and sharing it with people or whatever. But he can still give you really sound advice, and he keeps up with the game enough to know things. And then he goes and shows up at tournaments and does really well. Like, we hazed him a little bit for finishing second so much last season, but he's showing up to tournaments. He showed up to a tournament and built a deck, like had just a shell of a deck. And
from a box of scraps?
Yeah, he's like, I'll throw it together. I'll throw it together and get second place. That's fine. So, I mean, he's really good. And I think players, once they get to a certain level to where they're really good in the game, the cards can change, but their ability to adapt and like their mind just moves a certain way to where they're always going to be at least really above average. They're never going to fall below that as a threshold. So I've got John Early there. And then I believe I would be
remiss,
wrong to not. No, I wouldn't be the remiss little soul, but I believe Josiah Beers has to be there.
Okay.
Just from the way people talk about him playing, but again, that's another one where he's had success in other categories and things to where, you get into that murky ground of how much do you give, credence to what they've done in this one category over the body of work. So I would say Josiah Beers. I believe based on full body of work, plus how important he's been to the Type 1 scene for the last 2 to 3 years, I think Jaden Alstead's there.
Hey!
He did win in Iowa, and he finished third this year, which is no slouch, going through Top Cut, finishing third.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we see him throughout the year maybe play some less than top tier decks because he's showcasing different things for his channel and things. But when the rubber hits the road at nationals, he's going to have a deck that he can pilot, and it's kind of that same play style that like his brother shares a little bit, to where it's a little bit more methodical and everything is thought out. Like every card slot has a defined purpose in the deck. There's no fluff with it. There's no, I should have included this. And you find that out. Like sometimes I go to a tournament, I'm like, I should have included this in the first or second round, and it hurts me the rest of the tournament. They're like, I might have should have included this, but like they're able to roll through the tournament.
Yeah.
So he's there. And then I think I got to do it. I think I got to put Gabe Isbell there.
Oh, very cool.
Because I know that he was really good back in the day, and I know that he was highly competitive, and he hasn't done that or been that since I've gotten into the game. He's been in his leadership role with the elder team and things. But there's some players that you just hear stories about, like what they used to do back in their day. And I think he's one of them that just the respect that he garners just from like his body of work that he's done in the past, I think it merits him being included there. And then not only that, just all of his contributions for the game on the, the elder team side of it. So I think Gabe, John Early, Jaden Alstead, and Josiah Beers. And that means that, how many J names is that? 3 out of 4?
Gabe. So no. 3 to 4. Yeah.
So
Josiah,
3 out of 4.
Jay.
So I will just say that I'll just run off a few names for
honorable mentions.
Posterity.
Yeah.
Well, these are players that I've heard have been really good.
Okay.
But I don't know like exactly where they fit in as far as like their big impact on the game. But like Tim Molly is one that gets talked about a lot, which maybe we are trying to have on a future podcast episode.
That'd be awesome.
Tim Molly. There's Jerome Beers, who like I know that Josiah has said that people don't realize how good his brother was, and that's what led him to be so good, just trying to beat his brother.
That's awesome.
The Alsteads always talk about their brother Jordan that used to play. But I do know that again, we focused on Type 1-2 player for this, so Justin Alstead would be up there. He would definitely be on, if you say just the game, and I almost put him on there anyway, but if you're saying 100% just focusing on Type 1-2 player, I don't know. Like he's made a couple of top cuts, I know, and he's really good everywhere else. Playing when multiplayer was a thing, I guess he's okay with booster and sealed, those things, but Type 2 he's pretty good at, and he does okay in Type 1 currently. So can't include a lot. We spent a lot of time on this question. Somebody's going to be mad out there, but hey, maybe in the future we could get a round table of people that have been around the game for a lot of years and kind of work on this from a more like holistic, like the full time frame of redemption and try to hammer it down.
That'd be cool.
But,
that'd be cool.
All right. Moving to the next question. We've got this from John Early. He says, I would like Jake and John to discuss local.
Yeah. I'm loving this one. I think I got the win here.
I would like Jake and John to discuss local grocery options in your respective cities, compare and contrast them, and then arm wrestle over whose is best.
We can't do the arm wrestling part here, but I'm
gonna go ahead and give you the win.
Yeah.
We got Publix, which is okay.
Yeah.
And then we have Southeast Grocers bought out Winn-Dixie, and they also own Aldi. I don't know how popular those are around other places of the country or how expanded those are. But beyond that, I think I was telling my wife that we went to Nationals and we had that grocery store right next door, and that grocery store was awesome.
Yeah, that's
like
pretty
they
good.
had the hot food you could get. There was a Starbucks or whatever right in the door.
That was pretty
good.
The
prices were actually cheap.
Yeah.
Compared to like our prices here.
Yeah.
Like Keegan got a Lunchable 2 days. That's what he wanted.
Yeah.
And it was like $2 and something for the Lunchable with the juice. And I know it was on sale, but still, those are like $5 and $6 down here.
Yeah.
The ones with the juice. So definitely, I told her that as you go north, because I've also been, when we had Nationals in Iowa, I went to, I think it was a Hy-Vee because, I think John was there. It was a Hy-Vee, and they had the hot food stuff, banded store, like bigger than what a lot of grocery stores are around here. And I just think the quality of grocery shopping is better the more north you get.
I beg to differ, my friend. I beg to differ.
Well,
maybe it's just bad in the middle, and it's good in north, good in
when
south.
I was in Texas for Nationals, I did not go to a grocery store.
Exactly.
So I don't know about Texas.
Let's hear
about it. But I do default to you that you win this.
Texas has the store named Henry Edward Butt, better known as HEB. And their motto is everything's better.
Howard, what was his name?
Henry Edward Butt, I think. I think this is real.
Henry Edward Butt.
Yes.
You go shopping at the Butt.
Well, it's called HEB.
I forgot. We do have Piggly Wiggly around here. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that.
I've heard of it. I've never been.
Okay. I don't know if like that's the funniest name for a grocery store, but I feel like it might be.
It might
Piggly Wiggly.
It might be. But
anyway, carry on with Mr. Butt.
Yeah, HEV also their theme is, their motto is here everything's better. They're really good. Like they have an amazing generic brand. Like it's really like they put a lot of quality into it. They are well known for treating their employees well. They even make blankets. They have blankets that are HEB tortillas. So my wife has one, and she bought one for my niece, and you just roll her up into a Brookito, because her name is Brookie, and you put her in, like, they're awesome. HEB is well beloved around here in Texas, and it's spreading to other states now, and HEB is awesome.
It needs to spread east. Bring it on, baby.
Exactly.
Bring it on. Bring on, Mr. Butt. Let's go.
Here, everything's better.
Bring your butt really here, cool. Mr. Butt.
Exactly. Really awesome.
But I default to you that you do have the best grocery store of the two.
I appreciate that.
But I do not default that you would beat me in arm wrestling.
No, I know you might for sure. We'll see.
No, there's no might, Jake. Come on, let's be honest. Let's be honest, bro. The charisma that I have, the strength that I have, like you're gonna be wowed when I roll up my sleeve and show you all this muscle hiding under this fat layer. I just got that fat cap to throw you off.
That's awesome.
Anyway, on to the next question.
Yes, next one. Okay, so this is from Seto Kaiba. I heard that my rival's starting to play this game, and I intended to find a way to defeat Yugi and prove I can beat him in some game. I was able to pull some strings through Kaiba Court and get a full set of the new Pat Israel's Inheritance before it was released. I'm sure Yugi will believe in his deck to guide him, so tell me which of these dominant cards and counters is the best to overpower an opponent like Yugi. That's really interesting. What do you think about that?
Well, we did put Yugi onto the Warriors with Benaya Snatch Spear, representing kind of like his dark magician, his beloved dark magician.
Mm-hmm. But the Snatch Spear is the choose the blocker, right? Or
yep.
No?
Yep.
Okay.
And then you're fighting by the numbers, CBN.
Yeah.
With
very interesting.
Benaya. So now we've given that to Yugi. How would Kaiba counter that, which dominance and things? And I feel like the Prophet's dominant might be a decent answer, right? Wait, no, you can't play that one defensively.
I was gonna say, like, you can't play on defense, can you?
Yeah, you can't.
So dominance. Christian Martyr. That's not from
well, I was thinking specific dominance out of the new set.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Canaanites have the withdrawal.
That's the only one,
right?
Well, this is it Underdeck?
Underdeck draw
Underdeck.
characters. So that'll work.
You could do that.
Yeah. And that would be useful against getting rid of a bunch of like warriors with weapons equipped, sticking them at the bottom of their deck. That
I
sounds
think
pretty good.
warriors. Your best bet is probably. Well, I don't know if it's your best bet, but low number chump block guys that come in and boom, CBP. You need to
CBP.
be CBP.
Because I was thinking the woman at the Bez, but she's not CBP, and
unless they're. I don't think there's a Canaanite card in the set, is there, that makes them CBP?
I don't know. I still I've not digested the whole set yet. Like I'm kind of like I had my redemption like flood of information in play. I'm like, I'm gonna chill out on redemption for a little bit. Let other people solve the meta for me. Let John solve the meta with his purple discarding enhancements from deck. So like,
dude, I love it. The purple warriors, I've probably done. I was telling Tyler, I've probably done well over 100 like goldfish hands. Which I mean,
1,100 goldfish.
I have it.
Or over 100. 100.
Over 100, yeah.
But they said 1,100. I was like, man.
Like at work, I just pull up Bootleg Lackey.
Yeah.
Which RIP Bootleg at the behest of Rob Anderson. We are not going to be sharing that anymore. We pulled the files down.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's breaking news.
He requested that they not be shared and distributed that way.
Okay.
He said they could stay up on Land of Redemption, so they are there for people to see. But I guess the people that do have the Bootleg Lackey can just hold it near and dear to their heart and continue to build and test decks that way. But I got it loaded at work, and I've just probably 20 times throughout the day I'll just grab Lackey and run a test hand, and there's a wild amount of inconsistency with it. Like sometimes you hit one warrior and you're just hoping for a weapon to get him into battle with his ability. And then sometimes I've gotten up to where I've had like 8 like warriors out. Well, not all of them equipped, but at least 6 of them equipped. Like 8 warriors and 6 equipped, I think is the max that I've gotten on turn 1.
Where's my 3 nails?
It's all just selling out for mayhem, just dropping the things down out of hand and then trying to +6 mayhem. And then you also have Crowd's Choice and Buckler if you get lucky with those. So I'm having a blast going through that. I haven't played any real games with it, so I don't know how good it is standing up to opposition yet. But I do think they are strong. So I don't know what Kaiba's going to do to try to overcome this, but I feel like some element of chump block is needed.
Well, he could just rip Yuki's deck. He likes to do silly things like that. So get it. Treat them like they're Haman's plots. I don't like old school Haman's plot. Feels like a Kaiba style card. I will discard your dark magician. CBN. If I rip right down the middle. So. All right, we don't really care if Kaiba wins or not. We want Yugi. Go Yugi. Sorry. Yeah, go Yugi. Woo.
So this one is from Michigan. The state of Michigan is calling and says, we just had nationals in Michigan. Yes, we did. All right. It says, an amazing state that borders 4 of the Great Lakes. Which lake is your favorite? Years ago, some players laminated cards and played a game at the bottom of a pool. Seems like a cool thing we could have recreated this year. The Nationals Church was only 30 minutes from Lake Michigan. How could we do this in the future? I need to see pictures or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
There's no way Redemption players, maybe of another card game, there's no way Redemption players laminated cards and played in a pool.
Exactly.
Unless they were playing with Angel War cards and they didn't care if they got damaged and destroyed.
That's a good idea. We should do that.
I'm using them every fall as, bonfire starter.
Yeah.
I just light up a card and throw it on and until it takes blaze.
Kira catches fire real quick.
Yeah. Eli's on top of the fire.
Save cues, though. Those are important.
No.
They make great tokens. Best tokens.
But yeah, I did notice that the lake, at least Lake Michigan, was really close. I wanted to. You did get to go. I saw that.
Yeah.
I wanted to go, and then I was hoping when we were driving, because on the map we were literally driving right beside the lake, like on the map. But I guess obviously there's some distance
Exactly.
between.
Yeah.
There was a tree line and stuff. We never got to see like an open part of the lake. So
Yes.
I was kind of bummed, but I had even with getting to cut out taking Brian, which would have added like 4 hours to my trip, or close to 4, it was still an 11.5+ hour trip without stops. So
that sounds a lot shorter than mine.
Well, I did not feel. Well, you planned to stay and do that. I planned not to miss another day of work because of all the cards I bought and spent, and I needed to get home so my wife could go ahead and chastise me and get that over with before I had to go to work. But I really wanted to, and I didn't get to. So that's a regret that I'm going to carry for a while if I never make it back. You know, if it's a while before I can make it back up that way to see it, but. It's definitely something that I wanted to do.
I gotta say, Lake Michigan was awesome. It's so crazy to have seagulls like jumping into fresh water and drinking, like because I'm used to seeing seagulls and they can't drink the salt water, but they can drink the fresh water there. So that was cool. I was not expecting sand. I assumed it was gonna be a rocky dirt beach. Like it was actually a sandy beach. Like I got my feet in. It was awesome. I thought it was really cool. So Lake Michigan is my favorite. It's the only one I've seen in person I've been in, but it was really cool. So I like Lake Michigan. It's really deep there too. You couldn't go to the bottom and play. Like it's like Eiffel Tower levels deep at the bottom of Lake Michigan. That wouldn't work. You'd die. I'm sorry, but that's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how we could recreate laminating cards and playing. Definitely not at the bottom of Lake Michigan, because I feel like if you get there, you're not getting back up.
Exactly.
So I guess we'll kick it to the next question here.
So this is from Baboony Tim himself. Favorite. Oh, that was good. That was a good sound drop there. Favorite card art from the newest set so far. Ooh, there's so much good stuff in here.
There
Man.
is.
Benaya might be like easy pick for
Can
me.
we just acknowledge though that this is one of the best looking sets I think in the history of the
100%.
game. I almost want to say the best looking set, but I don't want to like do that. It's sometimes when you give such high praise for one thing, it almost detracts from other things, because I think GOC was a good looking set.
Yeah.
I feel like though with it going into IR, and I know Promised Land is there, but I feel like I just about need a break from JJ Tissot art.
I love JJ Tissot art, but like this is still
it's been
nice.
a lot of it in in GOC and then IR. So I was glad to see a lot of variety with the artwork in this new set, Israel's Inheritance.
100%.
Speaking of that, I guess if you're going to ask me what my favorite looking card is, I'll get it out. No, I know people can't see it here, but one of my favorite looking cards is, I do kind of like the way David Stronghold looks like.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Like a comic book, like hideout for
yeah.
The bad guy or the good guy that's on the run because the bad guy's after him. Looks almost like a bat cave or something like that. But I, obviously, being that I'm playing with Purple Warriors, I really like Joab the General's artwork.
Yeah, I like
he looks
that
like
one
a
too.
Spartan, and it looks like a scene out of like 300.
This is Sparta!
That's what I'm going to name my Purple Warrior deck when I eventually get it done. This is Sparta. I've already claimed that. That is on the record books. No one else use my name or I'm going to be suing you. I'll send the same lawyer that Daniel sent after Jake here for the creator name. But being that I am playing Purple Warriors, obviously I really like Abishai. Abishai is probably the best looking card in the set. But I won't give you that one because that's kind of a generic answer.
Okay.
But I really, really dig the crossover that we were able to do with Return of the King.
Yes, I was looking at that one right now.
The Return of the King, it's got the callback to Lord of the Rings and all of that, and it looks great. And not to mention, the ability is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Negate a card, any card, and then band. So if they've got that soul out that stops you from banding, you can negate that soul, and then you can band.
Yeah.
It can hit anything. You're not usually going to have initiative with the Purple Warriors from what I'm seeing in testing it out. You're not really ever expecting to play anything with initiative. So being able to negate a card gets you out of the stocks. If you are going in with just one or two guys, it keeps them from stocksing you potentially.
Yeah.
So I really like that one. So what say you, sir?
Ooh, okay. So like I think Benaya is definitely one of the easy picks.
Yeah,
As
that's
far
why I
as
steered away from that one too.
yeah, I think that there's that purple card, like it's got a bunch of treasure. That one looks really cool. It's AI
Oh
generated.
yeah,
I
that's
like
the
that
one
one.
that it makes you look for smog in the background,
Yeah,
like peeking up.
exactly.
Like, where's the dragon at?
Great Plunder. That's a really good one. And honestly, the Angels look amazing too. I think Captain of the Host looks fantastic, and Victoria's Being looks really, really
I'm
good.
not big on Captain of
The
the
Angels.
Host.
I'll tell you.
It could grow on me.
Yeah.
But this is one of the first things I think of, and it's only because of the artwork and stuff that people have put out for this matter. It's not necessarily that like anything about it directly correlates, but just the artwork that other people have portrayed for it. If you take his wings off, does he not look like some of the images that you've seen for like the Crusades?
I guess you could say
Where
that.
like the dressed up going around killing people.
Yeah.
I just take his wings away and it looks like he's killing people.
I mean, angels kill people all the time. They
Okay,
do
fair,
that
but you get what I'm saying. So when I first saw it, that was the first thing that went in my head, and I haven't necessarily been able to shake that yet. I'm not. It's not something that I'm like strongly opposed to. I just don't know that I don't know that I like the art. I'm more or less maybe indifferent or slightly dislike, but not strongly to where it's like, oh, I'm not playing that card ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people, it might be their favorite card out of the set, and I don't want to ruin that for them, but that's just one of the things I thought of.
Speaking of honorable mention, I got to give one to Victorious Being here, because this card is, you're going to see this card for many years.
Insane.
It's
You're
insane,
see it in
and the art's good
Nativity,
too.
right?
Dude, like it fits in like any deck that has single brigade, judges, or prophets is going to be wanting to play this, because it's exchange and draw one. It goes to discard too. Like, this card is beastly, and you're going to see it for a long time, and it's good because it looks good too.
Yeah, I do think that they did a good job with that, to where it promotes single brigade things. It's one of those cards that does that. Not being able to like splash and go to a Joshua the Conqueror in your reserve or whatever, wherever it searches to your deck, reserve, whatever. I think this set really pushes you towards more mono brigade stuff without feeling restricted into that. Which IR kind of did the same thing, to where it wanted, like, it made you want to play mono brigade or lower brigade count, but it felt like restrictive, like you had to do it. And then the themes in IR felt like they played a certain way, to where I poke fun at Brad, former co-host, and my local redemption buddy, but I poke fun at him because his play style. I'm like, you're like a grindy player. Like, it's going to go down to the wire to whether you're going to get the game in time or not. And if you're not playing a tournament game with him, he's like, well, let's just play it out and see how it would go anyway. And there's no value in that, because in a tournament you never see that. But he'll say that, and it just wears you out. It's like playing NBA 2K. I don't know if you've ever done that, the video game.
It's been a while. Yeah.
And then they've got the bruiser tag on your player, to where you just drain energy from the person that you're guarding.
That's funny.
He just drains energy the way he plays sometimes. And IR was a set that played to those play styles. But if you weren't into that, it felt like it was forcing you to play that way. Like add to battle and stuff, and just a lot of like late game attrition, finally paying off, right before time limits and things. So I think that this set is, they've done a really good job pushing you to mono brigade stuff, of making it more of an open choice for you to be that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that's a long-winded way to answer the question there, and get a little sidetracked talking about the set, which,
hey, it's a good set to talk about.
It is. In fact, that might be foreshadowing of something you've already heard on the podcast. And what does that mean? Foreshadowing for something you've already heard? Because we haven't recorded that part of the podcast yet, but we might talk about the set somewhere in there. This is actually the first segment we're recording this week. So break down the fourth wall, baby.
Yeah.
The next question, and we'll try to go quickly on these to get these wrapped up. But if you were going to build a redemption cube, what cards would you definitely want to include, and what are some cards that you would exclude from a cube?
Ooh.
I don't have any experience with a cube. I understand that it's like a set selection of cards that you draft from, and you want it to be randomized enough to where it's not like you get a certain card, you win. You want it to be diversified, but you also want to keep out some of the more challenging card interactions, or the more, I don't know, maybe frustrating card interactions and things, so you can kind of manipulate how the games will play out as far as card interaction.
Yeah.
But as far as building a cube and going through all of that, I have no idea about that.
Yeah.
So do you have any experience with that?
Yeah. I built a cube. That was when I didn't have a ton of rotation cards. I built out a bunch of classic cards because I was just getting back in the game, and like I wasn't gonna buy boxes of rotation, so Roy just gave me like all of his classic cards. So I just built a huge cube out of it. It was fun. Like, obviously, a rotation cube's gonna look completely different, but to put on some cards, I definitely include in there. I'd include those exchanging angels, Angel of the Winds, Angels of the Sun, this new one, Victorious Being, because those cards help you like build your own little combos, and your like, that's what the cube is. The cube is a type of draft, and it's really cool to have little combos in there. Other things in the cube, I want cards that that get better with themes, but that are not necessarily fully reliant on themes. We talked about one that I believe is interrupt the battle, discard a card, and then do something else if you have something in the theme. I think that's a good card. Cards like Tenant Skill of the Sun are good too. But so, like, in general, like, I don't want to put any cards that are hard reliant on a theme. Like, if a card says you need to have an extra, like, Mary Holy Virgin might not be the greatest card to have in a cube, just because she's just gospel unity, and it all depends on what your cube looks like. But like, if your cube doesn't support gospel unity, you may not want to include someone with such a sharp unity.
Okay, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: in a cube world, since you have a little bit of experience with it, and I have none.
Yeah.
Is that something where you would like want to steer away from like CBN things to encourage more battle interaction and things? Because I feel like booster draft and even sealed deck, those games are so driven by the enhancements that you have, which type 1 and I'm sure type 2 is still enhancement reliant, just because you have access to so many more. But type 1 is starting to get to where you're trying to win battles, or at least play battles out without having to rely on an enhancement. But I feel like anything that's a draft style would fall back into, like, with booster and sealed, to where enhancements are going to be a high value card for you. But do you want to stay away from CBN, or would you just rather put in a bunch of add to battle stuff with it to offset it?
No, like, honestly, like, most of the CBN effects in Redemption, I think, are pretty fair, especially in draft. Like, scattered, I'm totally fine with scattered hitting a big band, and like that forces you to change your gameplay, especially if you have a card that gets a look at their hand and says, oh, they have a scattered, I need to switch up what I'm doing and not abandon everybody. I think cards of those are actually really good for gameplay. In fact, I kind of wish the starter decks had a couple like scattered effects, so you just wouldn't go like all crazy, abandon your entire chain of heroes, and then just auto win that battle. I mean, they have a few like effects that can do that, but you still get to negate them. But honestly, I think CBN cards, if you sprinkle them in the right dose, totally fine. Obviously, you don't want characters that will just take over the game if they like on their own. So that's the thing that you're going to test when you start playing your games out. You notice, like, man, every game that we play with this, maybe it's Beelzebub. It's probably not Beelzebub, but the point is, I'm just using a name here. Anyone who drafts Beelzebub,
everybody's
wins.
got Red Dragon,
Yeah,
the protection.
It always wins 80% of their games. Maybe you start cutting that card, but honestly, like, if you're picking like the 10, 12, 13, whatever best color cards from that set, and like, you're probably going to find some good negates. You're probably going to find some good flexibility. So as long as you build your colors with the right amount of flexibility and negates and stuff, they've done a good job of not making cards CBN that are going to completely lock you out the entire game. So I think they should be fine. Just be careful, you know?
Okay. Would it be typical to see dominance in a cube, or do you try to avoid those?
No, I think we should have dominance. I wouldn't put Son of God and Second Coming in there. Actually, you can put Second Coming in there if you don't have Son of God. But yeah, like, you can actually put some dominance in there, and I think that's really fun. I think Grapes of Wrath is a good one. I think like Angel, Martyr, those are good ones. So they definitely change how the game flows and plays. And without having Son of God in the deck, like, yeah, your Angel got you a free rescue, but you still got to get 4 more. Like, that matters. So and if you also have those other starter deck doms in there too, if they counter your Angel the Lord with a Murderous Command, you feel really bad about that, because like, they just restarted the battle and they got one of your territory class cards, like one of your territory characters. It's just really interesting. So I think dominants are worth it because they add a lot of interaction. But yeah.
Let me ask you one other thing. And this has turned into a mini interview about cubes. What would a cube of just roots only as a set look like? Is there might not be enough cards in every color, but it feels like if you could just double up cards in those colors, you didn't have to worry about like playing unique characters down. Not to get into that discussion that was brought up recently, but I feel like the balance level though of roots would be pretty good in a cube style draft.
That sounds really interesting. I've never even considered that, and like I think that's a really good thing to consider. What type of power levels do you see out of root? I know that the philosophy is a card that's broken in to see some play. Stocks is obviously amazing, but that's anybody can play that. It's really interesting. I've never really considered roots as itself as a format, so that's really fun. I have no big clue on that. Like none of the roots heroes have really broken into play, have they? To top play.
I mean, just sprinkled here and there for some, like edge use case.
Edge use,
for the most part.
I think they top out around medium power level. So
right, but they're better than the starter deck.
Yeah,
but then
exactly.
They're not overpowered. And I know that there's talks of potentially a Roots 2 in the future.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
The reason I asked that is if Redemption does another Roots set like Roots 2, and then you have Roots 1 and 2, and you put them together and just draft those. Does Redemption have kind of its own cube built at that point? It would be really cool if it worked out that way to where that's a really fun experience if you just get all those, put them into a cube, and you draft that to where it's a reusable thing, and you can build different flavors of decks or whatever just from that card pool.
Yeah.
It'd be cool
that's
if
a really good idea.
Redemption had their own cube, so to speak.
I like that for sure.
All right, next question. I believe it is up to you.
Yes, this is from Dogpool. I don't know what that means. Which of the elders do you think would win an all-out brawl? Fisticuffs. It's got to be Mr. Miyota, right? He has the Force.
No, Mr. Miyota is going to try to talk his way out of it. he's going to talk so long, the sun's going to go down, and everyone's going to leave. They're going to come back the next day, and he's going to be like, still mid-sentence, not even knowing you left, went home and got 8 hours of sleep and came back, still talking. And then when he gets done, he's going to be like, did you hear me?
That's awesome.
An all-out brawl. Like if it's coming down to fist, Tyler looks like he would pay somebody to protect him.
Oh,
Come
yeah.
on now.
He'd have a bodyguard.
Chris, no
Chris
go.
is hurt. Yeah, Chris
is hurt. He can't handle physical competition. I don't think it's Joe. Joe just looks too small to take on the full force.
Yeah, Marcus, he could take some people out.
Yeah, Gabe.
Yeah. Gabe.
He is like the dude. He always compares himself to the dude or whatever. So maybe he'll use some of his tendencies. Maybe he'll have John Goodman go with him with the gun.
Are any of the elders in MMA? I wonder.
I'm not so sure. If there was going to be one, it'd probably be Tyler.
Yeah.
I feel like by default,
I
want to say either. I don't know. I'm gonna say Marcus.
Marcus, yeah,
because
I like that.
Marcus would get into a fight with you, and then mid punch, he'd be like, "Hope, time out, pause."
Yeah, exactly.
And then change the rules on you.
Yes, I like that.
Give you a different rule. He's like, no, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
According to the reg, you can't hit me in that spot.
Yes, I like that. That's a great idea.
So I think Marcus is going to win by virtue of getting mad, taking his ball, and going home, changing the rules.
Okay, so we're moving from brawn to wits to minds. Which elder do you think would win in a battle of wits?
Ooh, a battle of wits.
That's from Ladypool. I still don't understand what that's about. Anyways.
I'm guessing those might be Deadpool type references.
Maybe. I guess so. Yeah, okay.
Battle of Wits.
Marcus is doing the wits with his rulings.
But
Gabe's
he's
got all the
already
stories.
like tapped out on capacity. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe he's
yeah,
using
yeah,
all of his
yeah.
wit there.
That's good. That's good.
I think Chris could probably hold his own.
Chris, yes. Like, when you lose one ability, the other abilities become strengthened. So because he's hobbling around, his brain is growing in power.
Joe could be.
Joe, definitely.
Although a battle of wits,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Because I feel like if I say one of them, then it's kind of slightly calling the other ones dumb.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to bow out of this one and not answer the question.
We'll just say Chris, because if he got hurt physically, his mental power is doubled.
We've got the politically correct answer.
Yes, there we go.
Okay, so here's one from Ryan Reynolds. What was your favorite part about Nationals?
Yeah.
And this is something that obviously by the time we record the rest of the episode, we're probably already talked about a lot of stuff. But I think one of the underrated things about Nationals for me, I know we always talk about like getting to see people that we haven't seen for a year or whatever. I'm going to take a bigger approach to it and just step back a little bit and look at it in perspective. I enjoyed getting to see people that I hadn't seen before and that I know were experiencing Nationals either for the first time or maybe the second time, seeing them get to experience the community the way that I have over the last few years at Nationals. Like yourself, you were there last year, but I don't think there was a heavy amount of interaction for you.
Yeah.
And then this year you kind of got to interact with more people. You did better playing, and maybe that led to a little bit more interaction. But somebody like Tim coming in first year at Nationals, getting to see him get to interact with the community that I talk so well about throughout the podcast all the time, but getting to see the fruits of that actually benefit a new player like him coming into the fold and him being accepted and welcomed, seeing the Brooks kids and that family come to Nationals.
They were awesome.
I think for the first time, and seeing those kids light up, talk about the cards and things. And I think that just getting to see that step back and me not be involved and see the community do what like we know it will do with new players coming in, I think is probably the coolest thing about Nationals for me, if I have to look at it from a bigger picture. Because once I'm gone out of the community or whatever, it's like what the community is without the individual, and all of the individual stuff adds up to what the community is. But getting to see that exist and happen without you being involved, like just stepping back and seeing it happen is really cool to see.
No, I was just saying, like, as for me, like, I enjoyed the fellowship. I enjoyed seeing people. I was all smiles, like, the whole week. It was amazing. But, like, the thing that stood out to me most is my first time getting a taste of top 8, top competitive redemption play. Like, I got to play some good players last year, and I did well in terms of not losing, but I didn't do well in terms of getting points because I was getting timed wins. So this year, get all timed wins, and I hit, like, I was close to I was right on the bubble top 8, and I was like with Babooni, I was like,
the dream is that we both
the dream is that we both hit top 8, and then that happened. I was like, Babooni, the dream is that we play each other in the finals, and that dream happened, and it was just awesome. Like, I didn't play that well, but like I had a good deck, I think, and I think we put a lot of good work into it, and to see that hard work paid off, I think that went really well. So I was just super blessed that to be able to do it. Like, honestly, I know that like God blessed me with some luck on that day. Like, if I'd drawn it like a little bit differently, like earlier in the day, Josh absolutely smoked me. I had a horrible hand, but like at the same time, I also misplayed too. So like, I know that I could have just been smoked in top 8. God blessed me with some luck, and I had a good deck, and I had like it was fun. It was really fun to be able to put all that hard work into action and have it bear some fruit. So and having people say like, come up to me and say, hey, that was a really good idea to play that card, put Hezron in your sideboard. I was like, oh, that was cool, right? Like, so like,
I'm so glad you guys did that. And like the fruits of like that, private Discord where you guys worked and hammered out things, and seeing like, if you take a deck and you stick with it, you can kind of work it into a shape where it can handle and answer most meta things. I also think it's really cool. Another thing about Nationals that I really enjoy, and this is so selfish of me, but the fact that you made it to the finals, and like Tim, love that guy. He's a dear friend of the podcast here, but having the co-host on the podcast and what that means for like every time we talk strategy now, there's validation in it, at least from your end, because you did well at Nationals. and you had some of those like creative plays of putting Hezron in and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that just having that and knowing that you were, one or two plays away, maybe if you could have top decked a wall of protection somewhere in there, maybe you end up winning nationals, but you finished second, did great. And now people can hear from you. And I just think it does well for the community to have, I think it's fair to say, one of the top players in the game here on the podcast.
Appreciate that.
Because Lord knows it's not going to be me.
You did great. You did great.
Well, I did. So I guess the next question here is, did anyone at the Airbnb get any sleep with John snoring? And they're not talking about John early. They're talking about me. I think if anyone wants to check, they would need to check with Justin Alstead, because he was in the room across the hall, or it was just a little step up, and then you go left into his room, you go right into mine and Keegan's room. There was bunk beds. I was on the bottom, Keegan obviously on top, because I value his life and I didn't want to flip the order. Just in case, you know what I'm saying. Gravity is not my friend. Exactly. He's my arch nemesis, and he's always just right over my shoulder, ready to snap. So I kept Keegan out of harm's way, put him on the top bunk. But if anyone heard snoring, it was Mr. Justin Alstead. So
okay.
You can check with him, but I think being subdivided into separate rooms kind of alleviated that. But I would like to say the success of the Airbnb was fantastic. Like,
that's really cool.
I don't think there was any drawback, and I think that might be our model moving forward for nationals, is just try to find a place where we can get a bunch of people to hang out. And I think that really adds to the fellowship of nationals, especially this year, to where we didn't have a lot of time to hang out afterwards at the church, because people weren't staying at the church and things, to have that space to go and hang out and, stay up. We're going to find somewhere as redemption players to stay up past midnight at nationals, because sleep is for the weak, If you went to sleep before midnight, you didn't win a category. I'm just saying. It's always those people that are up thinking about it or tweaking decks and things like that that are doing well at nationals. So
yeah.
And then I guess you can wrap us up here with this last one.
Yeah, this one's from Philip. What are some of the best or essential tips for teams deck creation? Is team going to be won by dominance, winning, or extending the battle? Is drawing a bunch of cards the best thing I can do? What is the best place for counters like Jonah or Moses, COW, in teams? And what ways can the meta of teams differ from Type 1, which people usually play? Should a teammate and I be building more defensive than we usually do in our normal games? So this is my first real experience for teams here. Babuni and I basically modified the two strongest Type 1 decks we thought. Was like Nativity and Clay. So we're going to do that. And honestly, like, I think we could have done better if we had actually had more time. Like, honestly, like, Nativity and Clay are good, and they're just powerful on their own. And we added a few teams cards to it, some cards that would be shared. But at the end of the day, I think that we got we could have definitely hardened our deck to teams meta more. There's going to be Soul Hide, so if you're not playing Soul Hide, you want to be playing some answers to that. And I know y'all are playing Guardian of Your Souls, and it didn't work out well.
Do not play Guardian of Your Souls. In fact, if you have Guardian of Your Souls, participation promo first place, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Do me a favor, take it out, pretend it's Heyman's Plot, rip it in half, because the card stinks. It absolutely stinks. Do not get me started on it. I'll go in the penalty box now.
But I think that, like, you could be running both of the orphans and the other Thorn Soul, and obviously they can rescue them, they can negate them, but like that's something that they have to deal with. But honestly, our decks were Type 1 decks modified for teams, and I don't think that's the right call. The people that won the tournament, they were running some cool tech. We didn't get to play them. We lost to them by 0.5 points. We never got a heads up match against them, but that was I forgot their name. Was it Sean and Brendan? Yeah, Sean and Brendan. They were awesome. Like, man, they were like such. I would have loved to play them
all season.
they have an amazing like energy about them, and they had I would have loved to play them. But like, I think you definitely want to build a teams deck specifically for teams. You want to include a lot of cards that are shared between you, fortresses and sites when they get souls in them. And some souls function well for 2 players, and some souls don't function well for 2 players. So honestly, teams is really different than just normal Type 1. Like, Chad showed that, and he basically played both decks. He built 2 decks with Soulhide and Moses, and that threw a wrench in a lot of our, like, honestly, we could have beat him with proper play and not, like, we had a little bit, like, he had an outsiders plus a really good outsiders block on turn one that kind of wrecked my whole tempo because I had nativity, like, a huge start, and the outsiders just underdecked everything. But, like, he had a really strong deck, and there was a good soul hide, so, like, and he didn't care about soul hide because he had Son of God and he had Chariot of Fire instead, so he didn't have to worry about that. So honestly, like, teams is different than type 1, and I'm not a veteran. I just got third just because we played some strong decks and we had some strong play, but, like, it was fun.
Okay, let me jump in here. You guys built your deck the way that a lot of people build teams decks, and it works. It does work well. I mean, you guys got second.
Third,
and you got third. I'm sorry. Who was second? Was it Chad? And
we tied with Chad. We're both 5 points behind Sean and Brendan.
Okay.
So, like, and he beat us head to head. So yeah.
But anyway, you guys built your decks, and I told people after we played you guys, because you got off to a crazy start.
Yeah.
I remember I played something. I forget what dominant I played. And then you played a dominant that just basically eradicated that.
I forgot what it was.
I think you ended up playing Glory down.
Yeah,
after I was planning
Glory.
on playing an enhancement.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I played. Anyway, it was just, but you built your deck to where anything the opponent does is a landmine. Like, you're going to get some benefit from it, or they're going to have to go through some layer of resistance. And a lot of people build their decks that way. And I told a lot of people after we played that your deck was built very reminiscent of when John and Jaden paired together and at Nationals in 2021 in Texas. And they were playing a version of Hidden Throne, I think is the common name for it, that Jaden and Justin had played previously, to where they were using, like, hidden treasures to play enhancements as soon as their Green Prophet comes into battle, and then they would play Faith of Samuel to band and try to get choose the blocker and a Himalek or whatever, the bounce guy, things like that. Or basically just choose the blocker and you have nothing to play, while getting all of the benefits of kind of playing a throne style offense without throne itself, hence the hidden. But everything, like, they had treacherous land, they had just anything we did, we were beating ourselves. We were accelerating them towards the win with anything we did. And I think a lot of that works better if you go first. If you happen to go second, you might have some mixed results, and maybe that's what happened to you guys. I don't know. But I think building teams decks, you want to be able to rescue every turn. You want to be able to block at least once from each deck.
Yeah.
And I think any more than that, like, you're glad, but you're not trying to build defensive heavy by any means. You're trying to build counter heavy, just to give them a bevy of, like, all kinds of things that they have to step through. And that is the essence of teams, because a speedy deck that gets off to a hot start could outpace all of your counters. And then if you go first, you could set up so many counters that they can't get through at all. They can't break through. It feels like anything that they do is really just pushing you towards winning, because I'm playing a dominant, you're drawing cards. I'm playing a dominant, you're underdecking heroes with Kingdoms of the World. Like, there's all kinds of things that you can trigger just on them playing dominants. And dominants are a huge part of teams. The dominant play is probably, and knowing when to play dominance and when not to play dominance is probably the single most impactful thing that you can do. You cannot afford
dominance.
You cannot afford to not at least attempt a block ever. I think that puts you too far behind if you're not able to at least use your defense to draw into stuff to help accelerate your offense. You got to be getting some benefit out of the blocking opportunity. You can't just give up a soul. I'm not saying you have to get a block. You can lose a battle and still win the game. But you have to be getting some kind of resource out of that battle opportunity to just be like, all right, here's a soul, turn one, because you didn't draw a good block. I mean, you go ahead and walk away from the table at that point.
Yeah.
But there's just so many different ways it can go. And then you've got 4 decks playing so many more dominants and so many more souls than you're used to seeing, that the interactions are, like, just kind of wonky.
They get crazy.
Me and me and Jeremy versus Sean and Brandon. We ended up tying them, and we took like an hour, it felt like, just to get the first round over with. Like they were coming and putting us on the clock to make sure we got the first round over in time to actually start a second round. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because me and Sean like to argue. Or maybe it's definitely. But that's where we had the interaction where he did Priest of Christ and we blocked with Goliath, and then he gets to push the Priest of Christ back in because it's generic and get the first trigger, that if block from hand, which is just a wonky interaction that you don't
I didn't
see
think
happening.
about that. That's really cool.
Yeah. The thing that is irritating being on the other side and learning it for the first time is him getting to trigger that first one, even though it's blocking and trying to reactivate its ability. Yeah. It feels like once it reactivates its ability, it would bypass a pending trigger, but because it's an if block trigger.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, so have fun with that in stone carriers. Just saying. Don't try to Goliath stone carriers. But I think teams is just something that you have to play, and no one can really tell you how to experience it or how you're going to experience it or what it's going to be like, because it could be the spectrum of outcomes for a single matchup. If you played, like if me and Jeremy and Sean and Brennan played 10 times, there would probably be 8 different kinds of outcomes. Timeout win them, timeout win us, a win them, a tie, and then we'd probably find some way to like not even make it through first round.
Yeah.
So just all kinds of things, and I think that is kind of the essence of teams, but it's also part of what leads into that is that teams, you really don't get a lot of time to play during the season. Even if you go to a tournament where teams is being played, you might play 1 or 2 games. Mm-hmm. You don't really get enough to like take that deck and refine it throughout the season. And that's why like Mark and Jalissa were playing the same style deck that they were playing last year. And that's honestly a good strategy, because it's easier to refine something that you played a bunch the season before than to come up with something new, and you have limited time to play it throughout the season and refine it and get it into a optimized state before nationals. So that's why a lot of people build their deck the night before at nationals for teams. They find a teammate, they build their decks, and you can do really well doing that, because teams is just, it's the wild, wild west, baby. That's all I can say.
Yeah, definitely. All
right. That's going to do it for this way overextended mailbag. You guys hit us with a lot of questions, a lot of fun ones in there, a lot of kind of cool ones. And then we got some of a serious nature, like the top Mount Rushmore, the top 4 Mount Rushmore of players. So that's been fun, but I guess this is going to be the end of the episode. So we'll catch you next time on the Threshing Floor. Peace.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Threshing Floor Podcast. Help us grow our community by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, be sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss the next episode. And we'll talk to you next time on the Threshing Floor Podcast.
All right, ladies and gents, it's John Early. I've stolen Hendrick's microphone again. We're currently on lunch break here on day 2 of the national tournament, Type 1-2 player. I got Jay Chambers here. Jay, you came into this tournament with pretty high hopes. How have your first couple of rounds gone?
All right, so here we are. I'm 2-1 currently, and I threw a game away against Jaden Alstad, but it's Jaden, so no one can really fault me for that. So
I can fault you for that, and I will.
I know you can. You're John Early, John J. Early himself, the 3-time Type 1-2 player national champion, and the only person to have done it like in the modern era. So
tell me about your feelings. Are you on tilt right now with that game, or did you recover nicely from it?
I recovered nicely. That was in round 2. Round 3, I had a good win against a young up-and-coming player from the Kentucky play group, and so it's all going pretty good so far.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jay. I got Jacob Arrowwood over here. Now, Jacob is sitting across from Jay. Jacob, do you believe Jay when he says he's not on tilt?
I do not, no.
Really?
I don't believe most of what Jay says.
Now, I also have Marcus Parker here. Marcus is the head judge today. Marcus, what do you think of that little interaction over there just now? Marcus is busy eating. He's a very focused man. If you don't know Marcus, when he sees something, he goes after it with a gusto.
All right. Now, that was very nice gamesmanship.
I also have Brian Booster Jones hanging out today. He has a rotisserie chicken in front of him, and he has destroyed this thing. It is demolished. How long have you had this chicken for, Brian?
Couple minutes.
5 maybe?
Not even.
Guys, if there was a championship eating contest going on at this tournament as a side event, I think my money would probably be on Brian. Now, I'll tell you where my money isn't, though. It's not on him today for Type 1. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm 2-0-1.
2-0-1. Is that a timeout loss? Oh, yeah. Talk to me about round one a little bit, would you, buddy?
Round one, I was paired with Jeremy, and we've been playing all season, so we decided to mutually draw to give us a good chance moving forward.
So who proposed that initially? Like, if you'd played it out, who's won more games between the two of you this year?
John Hendricks actually proposed it because he was sitting next to us, but Jeremy probably has edged me out in games.
So it was to your benefit then to take this deal?
I think it was to both of our benefit.
So, true story, when I went to pair round two, I was really confused why Brian had a 1.5 because they turned their slip in right away, and then I remembered like halfway through the round, like, oh, that's right, that's what happened. I've got Mitch Stewart here from the great North Central region. Mitch, what are you eating today?
Oh, I got some tasty chicken, barbecue chicken, and some.
Where'd you get this from? Did you get this from across the street?
Yeah, it's not as good as Hy-Vee, but it'll do.
Yes! I love it. I love everything about it. That is fantastic. I'm over here now with the Murphy family. They brought some homemade lunch goodies, looks like. I see some very thick cut bread. Looks like turkey and some cheddar cheese or maybe American. Can't quite tell. Cheddar. Yes, Kaisane cheddar, if you didn't hear that. That looks incredible. I should have asked you to make me one. Did you guys road trip? Did you travel with somebody or just as a family?
We went as a family, so we did a combined family trip, and we actually went up to the Upper Peninsula and searched for Uper lights, if you don't know what that is.
Yes, they call them Upers up there.
Yeah, Uper lights. They're really amazing. You find them with UV lights at nighttime, and they glow like embers. So there's it's sodalite is the mineral that's in there, and that's how you find them. They're really cool looking. So if anybody's interested in seeing some, then let me know. But we did that and then came down here afterwards for the tournament.
That is fantastic. So Uper lights, these are rocks on a beach basically is generally where you find these, right, Kai?
Yes, that's correct. And so they were discovered in Lake Superior in this particular area of the Upper Peninsula. And so we just went to where they were discovered to try to make sure that we found some, and we did.
That is fantastic. Wonderful. You guys enjoy the rest of your tournament.
Thank you.
All right, we're over here with Al. Al, how's your day going, buddy?
Not bad, not bad. I'm having a good day of rest after yesterday's phenomenal.
A good day of rest. It's always important to take those. Have you gotten lots of good pictures, Al? If you guys don't know, Al's kind of our unofficial redemption photographer. Al, how many tournaments have you been to nationals in a row now? You've got to be pushing at least 15, 20, right?
They're not in a row because I didn't go the COVID year.
Oh, sure. Didn't go the COVID year. But besides that, you haven't missed one in a very long time, right?
Probably not. I haven't missed since COVID. So I've been the last 3 years. And then prior to COVID, I probably was having maybe 8. I don't know. Been around for about 15 years, easily.
That is fantastic, Al. Well, we really appreciate having you here, buddy, and I'm glad you're having an awesome day today.
Yes, I am.
I'm over here with a local Michigan Play Group member, Caden. Caden, how's your day going, buddy?
It's going all right. Games have been going mid, but the day itself is going great.
So, games mid, but the fellowship awesome.
Yes.
Hey, that's what we love to hear. That's what Redemption is all about, boys and girls. Fellowship and fun. We're here in the hangout room. Roy's got his trade binders here. Roy says he won't do the podcast unless he disguises his voice. So, Roy, use a funny, funky voice and tell the people all about your trading program. Just rolling back in here, we got Andy, Your Turn Games Fish. Andy, where'd you guys go for lunch?
We went over to the grocery store and we got some bread and bologna to share.
Now, Andy, I know that you're from Indiana and you might not be familiar, but on a scale of awesome to not awesome, how good is Hy-Vee compared to this grocery store over here?
Oh, Hy-Vee is head and shoulders above this grocery store over here. It's not even close.
Andy knows what it's all about, boys and girls. We're back over here with Jacob Arrowwood. There was some side chatter going on about where Nationals is going to be next year, and so we want to check with Jacob. Is your play group ready to bring this sucker back to the heart of the Midwest in Kansas, Missouri land?
That's a solid maybe.
Ooh, a solid maybe. We're going to check in with Josh Potratz later and see what his thoughts on the matter are, see if he agrees or disagrees with our friend Jacob here.